Chapter 556. Shiju, carry the tea house owner back to the mansion. Yiqing Luo indicated for Yan Xiaoyi to carry the person onto Shiju's back. I'll leave the rest to you. I'll go look for that black-cloaked man. After a pause, he continued. After you're done with the bird beasts, go directly to the mercenary guild to hand in your mission. Don't worry about me. Yan Xiaoyi's expression changed. No, it's too dangerous. The people of the dark world were indeed strange. Moreover, they were in the light while the enemy was in the dark. To Yiqing Luo, it was too dangerous. Her words had not even finished howling when Yiqing Luo had already turned into a bolt of lightning, charging towards the periphery of the marketplace. Yan Xiaoyi's brows creased. If she chased after them, her ability wasn't enough, and she would only drag Yiqing Luo down. She turned her head to look at Dmo Xian, and was just about to run towards him when she saw that a mortal-like figure had already chased after Yiqing Luo's footsteps, following up. Yan Xiaoyi let out a sigh of relief. As long as Dizun was here, everything would be fine. Yiqing Luo stood on the outer treetop as she narrowed her eyes and surveyed the surroundings. These birds and beasts were all hovering in the air around this area. In other words, the black-cloaked man was definitely nearby. The direction from which these birds and beasts were attacking, Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed as she speedily dashed towards the area where the birds and beasts were concentrated. Sure enough, he saw a person shrouded in a cloak standing under a tree not far away from the market. They were stooped and skinny. It was impossible to see the other party's face clearly. It was exactly the same as Duke Jing's description. Her guess was right. Yiqing Luo sneered as her footsteps changed rapidly. The black-cloaked man reacted very quickly. At the instant when Yiqing Luo stared at him, he turned into a black shadow and speedily retreated, hiding among the magical beasts. Yiqing Luo's eyes flickered with a cold glint as her lips curled into a cold smile. Trying to escape? Before she could move her feet, a figure had already passed her and headed towards the direction where the black-cloaked man had hidden himself. A gust of wind rose from his palm, and the condensed profound qi lifted his head of black hair, making him look as elegant as dust. Shortly after, he felt a palm wind that could devour mountains and rivers slashing over. The flocks of birds and beasts were instantly blasted into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere, and mincemeat flew everywhere. However, under the birds and beasts, the black-cloaked man was nowhere to be seen. Ah Xian! Yiqing Luo caught up with the man's footsteps. He ran away. Dmo Xian replied calmly, chase. He never made a move easily. If there was a chance for Yiqing Luo to train, he would absolutely not interfere. However, they were from the Dark Coalition. It was the dark forces that had been plotting against Lil Luo, and wanted Lil Luo's life. He absolutely couldn't let it go. Yiqing Luo nodded, and the both of them headed towards the direction which the black-cloaked man disappeared towards. Along the way, the abstruse yin qi from the dark forces was extremely dense. The black-cloaked man's speed was extremely fast, and his reaction was also godly. Following the black-cloaked man's yin qi, he chased after him for 100 miles. Not good. I've been tricked. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and stopped in her tracks. 50 kilometers, she couldn't even catch up within 100 miles? She didn't believe that the black-cloaked man was that fast. Even if she couldn't catch up, it was impossible that Dmo Xian couldn't catch up, right? But that black-cloaked man seemed to have disappeared from the surroundings. Other than the remnant profound yin qi, she couldn't sense any other presence. This profound yin qi was obviously left behind intentionally by the other party, to mislead them. It was really the dark forces style. Forever hiding in the dark, like a rat in the dark. Dmo Xian's gaze was eerily cold, as his eyes seemed to be wrapped with a layer of frost. What a great dark force. Savage to such an extent. Chapter 557. After the black-cloaked man left, these bird beasts seemed to have been freed from their restraints. Instantly, one by one, they escaped at lightning speed. By the time Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian returned to the Mercenary Association, Long Yunzhan and the others had already left. Apparently, they had listened to Yiqing Luo's words and hurried over to the Mercenary Association to submit their mission. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian also followed closely to the Mercenary Association. But when the two of them rushed over to the Mercenary Association, they heard the mercenaries, who were passing by the Mercenary Association with grave expressions, discussing something. They could vaguely hear them saying the World Group, Yuqi, and other similar words. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly sunk as she pulled one of the people who were discussing. What happened? That person was talking excitedly, and on seeing someone asking, he immediately replied. Earlier the World Group's group leader came over to submit their mission. You know about the World Group, right? Our mercenary group is the first mercenary group to be promoted to a bronze plate on the second day of its establishment. Something happened to them. Earlier when they were promoted to a mercenary group, everyone was still very happy. Group leader received news from the mercenary badge that the World Group's headquarters had been surrounded by the Yuqi family. It's such a pity for the World Group. They are all young and promising youngsters. Why did they offend a large family like the Yuqi family for no reason? The people who were discussing shook their heads regretfully. A newly risen mercenary group, without any powerhouse behind them. But now they were surrounded by one of the four great families, the Yuqi family. This mercenary group absolutely could not survive. Yuqi family? Surrounded the World Group? Yuqi Peng? He actually dared to divulge the mansion's address. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as her lips curled into an extremely cold arc. She wanted to see what this Yuqi family was trying to do. Three Springs City, in front of the mansion. The commoners stood far away as they looked at everything in front of them, feeling extremely puzzled. This mansion looked old and dilapidated, and the owner of the mansion was very low profile. How did they offend the Yuqi family for no reason? Whereas when Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian rushed over on Little 9, they saw the majestic scene outside the mansion. Around a few thousand people, dressed in the Yuqi family's uniform, surrounded the entire mansion. This street, which wasn't exactly bustling with people, was now extremely crowded. Yuqi Peng and Duke Jing stood at the entrance of the mansion, and beside them stood a middle-aged man dressed in a navy blue luxurious robe, with an imposing manner. They had not argued with each other yet. Standing at the door was Baiming Liancheng. He frowned, and was negotiating with the middle-aged man. While speaking of anger, the middle-aged man shouted in a stern voice, "Dark forces, call your vice commander out for this patriarch." This patriarch would like to personally ask, what is a dark force? This person was actually the patriarch of the Yuqi family. He was Yuqi Peng's father. What was the Yuqi family trying to do by bringing out such a large force, and even mobilizing their patriarch? The head of the Yuqi family seemed to want to barge in forcefully, but he was stopped by Baiming Liancheng. Do you know who this patriarch is? The Yuqi patriarch waved his palm towards Baiming Liancheng's chest. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she leapt down from Little 9's back. The feather fan in her hands released a burst of strong airflow, forcefully forcing Patriarch Yuqi's palm chi to retreat. Yiqing Luo. Father, it's her. Duke Jing and Yuqi Peng spoke at the same time as they stared at Yiqing Luo, as their eyes were filled with hatred. What show was this? Chapter 558. The World Group. What a great group. You even dare to touch Yuqi family's eldest young master's hand. If this patriarch doesn't massacre the entire World Group today, then this patriarch will be letting down the Yuqi family's ancestors. Yuqi family's patriarch's face flushed red, as he was unable to restrain his anger. The successor whom he had painstakingly nurtured was destroyed just like that. Yiqing Luo. You dare to use the dark forces as an excuse to spread rumors about the dark forces, chopping off our future patriarch's right hand. You're trying to destroy our Yuqi family. Behind him, Yuqi family's guard berated her sternly. Our fourth young master was injured by you and now you're laying your hands on our eldest young master. What a vicious heart you have. Yiqing Luo had met this guard before. Wasn't he the helper whom Yuqi had found outside Pristine Elixir Medicine Hall? Yuqi family's elite guard? You said fourth young master let her. Yuqi family's patriarch narrowed his eyes as he sized up Yiqing Luo coldly. What a great Yi family's seventh miss. I'd not expected it to be you. Both his sons had suffered a loss in the hands of this lady. One was crippled and almost lost his life. The other's right hand was chopped off, which meant that his entire life was ruined. Yiqing Luo, you spread the dark forces and intentionally hurt Yuqi family, targeting Yuqi family. Today, even if your Three Springs sect kneels down to apologize to this patriarch will absolutely not forgive you. The manor was surrounded by Yuqi family's people, and these Yuqi family's people were blaming Yiqing Luo with righteous indignation. Yiqing Luo's expression was as calm as water as her lips curled into a cold arc, as she watched Yuqi family's patriarch's flush face coldly from anger, looking at their nonsense, as though she was looking at a clown jumping around. Her attitude made Yuqi family's people even more displeased. Those guards who had once suffered a loss because of Yuqiya at Yiqing Luo's hands started to speak one after another, bringing out the matters between Yiqing Luo and Yuqiya. Their words had already turned Yiqing Luo into a vicious person. Yiqing Luo continued to look on coldly from the side, because in her eyes, these people weren't worth her nonsense. But she had not expected that just as the situation was in chaos, Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly flashed. Looking in that direction, he saw a guard quietly approaching the youths of the World Mercenary Group. This guard suddenly made a move, and his sharp killing intent pressed towards Baiming Liancheng, who was standing at the door. Impudent! Yiqing Luo cried out delicately as the feather fan in her fingertips shook, and a red glow swept past everyone's line of sight. With this swing of her fan, 10% of the profound chi was released, and in an instant, that guard was sent flying. The Xian Qi then brushed past the tree at the side, and the bark of the tree penetrated into the wood. Everyone was stunned by Yiqing Luo's sudden move, and the World Mercenary Group's men immediately reacted to what had happened earlier. You're too much. This is clearly a guilty conscience. This woman is so arrogant. She's clearly making an enemy out of our Yuqi family. The members of the Yuqi family were all filled with righteous indignation. They were like tigers that had their buttocks kicked. Both sides were originally suppressing their anger. Now that the fuse had been lit, what reason was there to explain? Momentarily, several people from the Yuqi family rushed towards Yiqing Luo, wanting to settle the score with her. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as the feather fan in her hands flipped once again, and a burst of Xian Qi struck towards the group of people who were rushing forward. The few Yuqi family's guards joined hands, and barely managed to obstruct it. But they were jolted so much that they kept retreating, and finally fell on their buttocks onto the ground. Strong. Very strong. Chapter 559. Those elite guards who had clashed with Yiqing Luo previously knew that Yiqing Luo's skills were very strong. Only, meeting again today, they felt that this young lady was even more astonishing than the first time they met. Obviously, it had only been a month's time. Why did she improve at such a godly speed? A surge of fear arose in the elite guards' hearts. Yiqing Luo's eyes squinted as her pink lips curled upwards, curling into a cold arc. Her gaze shot straight towards Yuqipeng. Her long and narrow eyes looked enchanting, but that eerie chill seeped out from her eyes, making Yuqipeng subconsciously shudder. What are you all still in a daze for? Take down this demoness who spread her lies. Yuqi family's patriarch saw his eldest son being frightened by a young lady as he shrank towards his side. His face instantly lost its shine. He had brought along so many guards, but they couldn't even stop a small mercenary group's vice group leader? So what if she was Three Springs sect's young matriarch? Anyone who hurt his son, whom he had painstakingly nurtured, had to die. Especially in front of so many people, he had so many guards. Just a single Yiqing Luo made his Yuqi family's guards run away with their tails between their legs? In future, where would Yuqi family's face be placed? No matter how fearful those elite guards were towards Yiqing Luo, but with their master's command, they had to brace themselves and go forward. Moreover, thousands of guards were all here. No matter how powerful Yiqing Luo was, she would have to pay for it here today. Thinking of this, the elite guards' gazes turned piercingly cold as they exchanged glances. Following that, 10 over guards leapt upwards at the same time, blocking in front of those guards who had been overturned by Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate as she directly released her profound qi and dashed into the guards. The red feather fan in the young lady's hands was like a flame as it flew over. The elite guards subconsciously recalled 1 month ago when they worked together to protect Yuchiya. Vigilance. That kind of vigilance. They released all their senses, but were totally unable to stop Yiqing Luo. A fear arose in the elite guards' hearts. Deeply afraid that Yiqing Luo would disappear before their eyes and suddenly appear behind them, slipping their necks. Because of this fear, the feather fan in Yiqing Luo's hands had already split apart the 10 over guards who were charging towards her. She curled her lips and her eyes curved up. A trace of craftiness flashed across her eyes. Now these people had been split into 2 by her, opening up a path. This was the path she wanted. Since the Yuchi family wanted a result, she would give them one. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo suddenly struck out as the red feathered fan appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Following that, her movements were as fast as lightning, and in a blink of an eye, she overturned those Yuchi family's guards. Yiqing Luo was totally clearing the route, and this route was heading straight towards Yuchi Peng. Yuchi family's guards were all beaten into a daze. All these changes happened too quickly. Originally they were the ones who made the first move, but they had not expected that they were so easily beaten up by Yiqing Luo. Looking at Yiqing Luo again, she was composed, as though she hadn't used much profound energy at all. Stop her. Don't let her get close. Yuchi family's patriarch was after all much more experienced as he saw through Yiqing Luo's intention with one look. If she really captured Yuchi Peng under everyone's watchful eyes, then his old face would be thrown away completely. Yuchi family's elite guards' hearts instantly tightened. Surely Yiqing Luo wasn't going to repeat the same old trick, right? That time Yuchiya was ruined by this move. Following that, the other side's guards also surrounded Yiqing Luo like a beehive, surrounding Yiqing Luo in 3 layers. From what they thought, they should be able to stop her this time, right? Chapter 560. A soft murmur was heard ringing in everyone's ears like a ghost. That soft murmur was like a sigh, without any emotions. There was no ridicule, because every single word that Yiqing Luo said was the truth. Among the crowd, Yiqing Luo used that strange footwork as fast as lightning. Only a red glow could be seen jumping around like a fire elf. In just 2 mouthfuls of tea's time, Yiqing Luo forcefully broke through the encirclement, and under everyone's astonished gazes her hand grabbed hold of Yuchi Peng. Not to mention the others, even Yuchi Peng himself had not regained his senses. He originally wanted to see how Yiqing Luo was surrounded, but he had not expected that this human wave tactic, in front of Yiqing Luo, was so weak that it couldn't even withstand a single blow. Finished. Yuchi family's patriarch and Yuchi Peng were both shocked. The former felt that he had lost all face, while the latter had to consider his own life. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clasped tightly onto Yuchi Peng's wrist. The other hand was holding onto that feather fan, intentionally or unintentionally placed it in between the both of them. At this distance, not to mention using weapons, even if she didn't, just based on Yiqing Luo's fingertip profound qi, it was enough to exterminate Yuchi Peng. Those elite guards felt a chill down their spines as they stared at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. They were totally certain, after not seeing her for a month, Yiqing Luo had become even stronger. And this degree of strength was absolutely not just 1 or 2 points. That was a kind of qualitative leap. It was simply like a yellow profound first-grade cultivator, leaping to a sky mystic overlord. 1 month ago, Yiqing Luo, under the encirclement of the 2 elite guards, relied on the 2 Mu brothers before she could complete such a shocking feat, but today, in front of thousands of guards, she used a simple and crude method to restrain Yuchi Peng. Yuchi family's patriarch was still by his side and hadn't reacted in time. It showed how powerful Yiqing Luo was. At this moment, Yuchi Peng's forehead was drenched in cold sweat, as a sliver of regret arose in his heart. Perhaps, he shouldn't have provoked Yiqing Luo so rashly. This consequence was much more tragic than what he had expected. Yuchi Peng wasn't an idiot, and before he came, he had gone through a series of considerations. In his opinion, the Yuchi family had called over 1,000 guards to surround the mansion. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Father directly blamed Yiqing Luo for her mistake. Wouldn't Yiqing Luo be at a loss of what to do and hurriedly explain herself? At the very least, he had to deal with the Yuchi family. In any case, their Yuchi family had a strong army, so wouldn't a little girl be scared out of her wits? However, the actual result made Yuchi Peng feel terrified, exceptionally shocked. Under the current circumstances, Yuchi Peng didn't dare to think in this way anymore. He absolutely believed that even if he were to kill him on the spot, Yiqing Luo would absolutely not bat an eyelid. At this moment, Yuchi Peng finally understood what number 4 had experienced back then. It wasn't that old 4 was too weak, and it wasn't that those elite guards didn't give it their all. It was because this woman was too strong. Her speed was so fast that she could silently tear you into pieces. Bastard, let go of our young master. How dare you attack our young master? What gall! The Yuchi patriarch was so angry that his entire body was shaking. Under the gazes of everyone, Yiqing Luo was actually this arrogant. He gritted his teeth as he cried out angrily. Still not going to surrender. Perhaps our Yuchi family can still spare your life. The guards beside him all started to open their mouths to berate Yiqing Luo when they saw Patriarch opening his mouth, as though the person whom Yiqing Luo was restraining was their father. Chapter 561. Yiqing Luo swept a glance at the Yuchi family's guards as her lips curled slightly, revealing a sliver of ridicule. I've seen a lot of idiots, but I've never seen anyone as stupid as you. Patriarch Yuchi, there are so many of you threatening me. What if I get scared and accidentally injure young Master Yuchi? You can't blame me for that. The moment Patriarch Yuchi heard this, his entire heart was suspended in his throat. He couldn't figure out Yiqing Luo's route, but at least till now, everything that had happened had exceeded their expectations. If Yiqing Luo really used some carelessness, or slippery hands, as an excuse to claim Yuchi Peng's life, then his Yuchi family would really become a joke. Although his eldest son's right hand was destroyed, and he was already half a cripple, he was still able to control himself. But after all, he was the son that she had raised with great care. How could she not have feelings for him? Now that his son's life was in someone else's hands, Patriarch Yuchi wouldn't dare to act blindly, without thinking no matter how capable he was. However, the Yuchi family's reputation could not be tarnished. The master of the Yuchi family suppressed the anger in his heart, and tried to make his voice as gentle as possible. 7th Miss Yi, this time, we are here to resolve our conflict. If you have anything to say, let go of my son first, and we can sit down and talk. His words were spoken very carefully, and he put on a look of worry and helplessness for his son. At the very least, they had to make the surrounding crowd think that the Yuchi family wasn't afraid of trouble, but that they had no choice but to compromise for the sake of their son. The head of the Yuchi family was filled with rage. In his imagination, the person who should be begging for mercy should be Yiqing Luo. However, he was surrounded by thousands of guards. The other party only sent out Yiqing Luo alone, and he was helpless. Patriarch Yuchi had lived for most of his life, but this was the first time he had encountered something like this. Yiqing Luo almost burst out laughing when she heard that. That pair of long and narrow eyes were extremely enchanting, but there was also a trace of mockery and scheming. Only now did she know how to speak nicely. Just now, who was the one who was so aggressive and said that she was a heinous woman with a venomous heart? It was simply too funny. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about Yuchi family's patriarch as she lifted Yuchi Peng's lapel as her lips curled into a chilly smile, staring straight at Yuchi Peng. What kind of deal did Yuchi Peng make with the dark forces? Thinking back to the massacre in the marketplace, and looking at now, Yuchiya and Duke Jing flatly denied the matter regarding the dark forces. How could Yiqing Luo not understand? It was obvious that the dark forces wanted to completely seal off their appearance. This also meant that the dark forces were not strong enough to appear in front of everyone yet. They still had to hide in the dark and slowly expand their forces. Now, the news of the dark forces had already spread to the Yuchi family from Yuchi Peng's mouth. Naturally, the other aristocratic families had also heard about the dark forces devouring souls. If the underworld forces wanted to disassociate themselves from this matter, then they would have to start with Yuchi Peng. Otherwise, based on the sinister and vicious dark forces, Yuchi Peng and Duke Jing would absolutely not be able to survive till now. When Yuchi Peng heard her question, his pale face went blank as he immediately shouted out at the top of his lungs, "You're still trying to lie to me? What dark forces?" The dark forces had long made the upper realms people to expel the Nirvana realm. "You're still trying to use the dark forces as an excuse to kill me." Chapter 562. Yuchi Peng was stunned. His face was livid. But he was not willing to say a single word. He would rather die than speak. This was Yuchi Peng's attitude. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Looked like if Yuchi Peng mentioned about the dark forces, he might have to bear a consequence, which was even more terrifying than death. At the very least, the Yuchi family would be buried with him. The dark forces did not make a deal with Yuchi Peng, but threatened him. "I've never seen any dark forces. And I don't know what you're talking about." "What dark forces? What soul being devoured?" "All of this is just an excuse for you to take revenge on the Yuchi family. You deliberately used the dark forces that had long been banished from the upper realm as an excuse to chop off my hand and destroy the Yuchi family." Yuchi Peng bit his lips tightly as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo, giving a heart-wrenching howl. Those who didn't know what was going on would most likely believe it to be true. For example, the Yuchi guards who didn't know what was going on. From what they saw, Yiqing Luo was taking revenge on their eldest young master, which was simply too abominable. After all, they had only heard about the Dark Coalition from their seniors. They were the aliens that had been banished from the Nirvana realm. How could the dark forces appear again? No one believed it. Facing Yuchi Peng's attitude, Yiqing Luo instantly sneered. "Good, very good. Since you insist that I want to take revenge, cut off your hand, and bear this infamy for no reason, then I might as well make it true in front of everyone. I'll accept your hand." His voice had just fallen when a red light suddenly appeared and headed straight for one of Yuchi Peng's hands. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's heart was as calm as water. At first, they heard Yuchi Peng's nonsense and the Yuchi clan's overbearing attitude. Deep in her heart, she was still somewhat angry. With such a great injustice pinned on her head, no one would feel good about it. But Yiqing Luo instantly calmed down. It doesn't matter if she was wronged or if she was being scolded. Since Yuchi Peng had the guts to bring people over to cause trouble, then she would have the ability to cripple him. In this way, it could be considered as getting rid of a scourge and avoiding a lot of trouble. It was just some infamy. She didn't care what the Yuchi family thought of her. Since it was like this, he might as well directly chop off Yuchi Peng's hand and let him know that people cannot be casually made up. The moment the red light erupted, the Yuchi family's patriarch reacted quickly and wanted to stop it. However, before he could even make a move, Yiqing Luo's penetrative gaze shot right over as her palm wind moved, striking out a burst of palm chi towards Patriarch Yuchi's direction. Patriarch Yuchi did not dare to be careless. This palm of chi clearly did not contain any strong chi. But just the aura that erupted in an instant was enough to shock him. If Yuchi family's patriarch avoided this palm wind, then he would lose the chance to stop Yiqing Luo from ruining his son's other hand. But if he wanted to stop Yiqing Luo, then he would have to forcefully take on this palm strike. Even if he didn't die, he would at least have a layer of skin peeled off. What Yiqing Luo wanted was this effect. Didn't the patriarch of the Yuchi family want to put on a show of compromising for his son, and compromise? He was obviously afraid that the Yuchi family would lose all face, but he had to use such a lofty emotion like family to cover it up. He was simply destroying the word family. Did Patriarch Yuchi really dote on his own son? The so-called doting, was it really not mixed with any benefits? Chapter 563. Yuchi family's patriarch indeed didn't let Yiqing Luo down. Facing the incoming palm wind, Yuchi family's patriarch turned sideways and evaded it. But Yuchi family's patriarch still had to put up a front. After he evaded it sideways, he speedily flew towards Yuchi Peng's direction. But how could he make it in time? Oh no! Yuchi Peng realized this situation, and his heart instantly turned into ashes. He was still hoping that his father would lend a helping hand, but now it looked like he was dead meat. If he was still the proud son of heaven, perhaps his father might not fear the danger to save him. But now, he had lost his worth. How could his father possibly hurt himself just to save him? Yuchi Peng's heart was trembling. Why? Why did he offend this woman? Yuchi Peng looked at Yiqing Luo in despair. As he was terrified momentarily, he couldn't struggle. He could only watch as the profound qi in Yiqing Luo's hand moved directly towards his left wrist. He couldn't help but let out a miserable shriek. But at this critical moment, a burst of profound qi directly flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes but didn't counterattack, nor did she evade. Because this burst of profound qi, Yiqing Luo didn't sense any malicious intent, and was even vaguely familiar. But this burst of profound qi came too suddenly. If it wasn't for the fact that she had detected the source of this profound qi, and intentionally diverted the profound qi's energy towards Yuchi Peng, that person who came forward to obstruct her would probably have to pay a price. Not to the extent of serious injury, but skin injuries were inevitable. Qing Luo, show some mercy. From afar, a clear voice was heard, and a blue figure was approaching from afar. And behind that figure, another figure followed closely. In a blink of an eye, the two of them had already stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. Zifan Zifei? Why are you guys here? Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in astonishment as she stared at the extraordinarily handsome face in front of her. These two people were none other than the Mu family's two brothers, Mu Zifan and Mu Zifei. Ever since Yiqing Luo entered Heavenly Academy, she hadn't seen these two people. These two people seemed to be high-profound class students. But in the academy, Yiqing Luo had never seen them before. The Mu brothers were burning with anxiety at this time. The news of the Yuchi family surrounding a new mercenary group with their guards had already spread throughout Three Springs City. The two brothers were arranging the medicinal herbs in the pristine elixir medicine hall when they heard the customers who came to purchase the medicinal herbs mentioned that the vice leader of the mercenary group was Yiqing Luo. When the two of them heard this, they immediately rushed over. As expected, he saw Yiqing Luo. Back then, he had collaborated with Yiqing Luo to teach Yuchi a lesson. That was because he had an honorable reason to make sure that the Yuchi family would not have any chance of revenge. But if Yiqing Luo were to make a move now and destroy Yuchi Peng's other hand, then she would really form an enmity with the Yuchi family. Mu brothers didn't deny that Yiqing Luo's ability was indeed very strong. She wasn't afraid of the Yuchi family, but that was only because she wasn't afraid of them. Yiqing Luo's current foundation wasn't stable, and if she really made a move today, destroying Yuchi Peng's left hand, not to mention chopping off Yuchi Peng's right hand, was it to prevent Yuchi Peng from being devoured by the dark forces? Even if it was the death of this left hand, the Yuchi family would probably not let it go. Then, the Yuchi family had no way to deal with Yiqing Luo, so they would start with the people around Yiqing Luo. The first to bear the brunt was the World Mercenary Group. Especially the youngsters in the mercenary group. Some of them weren't even a match for the Yuchi family's guards. Chapter 564. Yiqing Luo, let's talk this out. There must be a misunderstanding somewhere. Mu Zifan's brows creased tightly as he suppressed his voice to persuade her. Whoever knew that before Yiqing Luo could open her mouth, Yuchi family's patriarch angrily opened his mouth. Mu family's two young masters, today's matter has nothing to do with you, please move aside. He clenched his fists tightly as his face was filled with anger. That pair of dignified and sinister eyes were burning with raging flames. Earlier from Yiqing Luo's action, how would the cunning Yuchi family's patriarch not understand her motive? This woman was simply hateful. If it wasn't for the timely appearance of the Mu brothers, his old face would have been thrown away. If he didn't tear this woman into pieces today, how would he be able to take this lying down? Yiqing Luo, you once destroyed my fourth son without any explanation. Now you want to destroy my eldest son as well. You want to destroy the entire Yuchi family? His eyes were chilly as his tone was filled with grief and interrogation. Are you trying to destroy the four great families one by one? While speaking, Yuchi family's patriarch intentionally casted a sidelong glance at the Mu brothers, as though to remind them that Yiqing Luo had ill intentions. When this hat was pinned, Yiqing Luo laughed out loud. No wonder he was one of the four great families' patriarch. His reaction was just so fast. Not long after, he had already thought of a reason to retaliate. In just a few words, he had pushed Yiqing Luo to the heart of the struggle. Destroy the four great families one by one? If these words were to be spread to the other three families, no matter if Yiqing Luo had such intentions, probably Yiqing Luo would be harassed by the other three families in the West Continent. They would rather kill wrongly than let her off. This was the principle of those who held high positions. Yuchi family's patriarch saw that the situation was completely under his control. Yiqing Luo couldn't even say a single word of resistance. He gave a cold laugh as his eyes were filled with disdain. A young lady was indeed a young lady, but after making things sound so serious, she lost her guts. Now was the time for him to regain Yuchi family's face. With this thought in mind, Yuchi family's patriarch's face was filled with rage. I want to take revenge for my son. The corners of the Mu brothers' mouths twitched when they heard this. They were extremely speechless towards the patriarch of the Yuchi family. Don't talk about avenging your fourth young master. This eldest young master was still in Yiqing Luo's hands. Revenge? Hehe. I'll have to pay with another life? Although the Mu brothers were filled with disdain towards the Yuchi patriarch, it was clear that it was not appropriate for them to continue arguing in this manner, given the current situation. Mu Zifan's lips curled into a warm smile. He slightly waved the folding fan in his hand and took a step forward. Patriarch Yuchi, Qing Luo and I are considered as close friends, and based on my understanding, she would not do such a despicable thing. His voice was light and slow, yet it carried an irresistible dignity. There must be a misunderstanding here. However, today's situation is not suitable for us to sit down and discuss in detail. Why don't we both take a step back and resolve this misunderstanding another day? What do you think, Patriarch Yuchi? The Yuchi patriarch's expression changed. He was the patriarch of the Yuchi family. Just because of a junior's words, he was going to shrink back? Whereas Yiqing Luo had no intention to compromise. Her lips curled into a cold arc with a smile, which didn't look like a smile. That feather fan on her fingertips seemed as though it could slice Yuchi Ping's neck anytime. Chapter 565. Mu Zifan's lips curled upwards as he maintained his elegant smile. But that pair of clear eyes shot out a piercingly cold glint. Just one look at it made one's scalp go numb. Mu Zifan coldly reminded, Yuchi family's patriarch, you can choose not to give me Mu Zifan face. But based on my Alchemist Guild's future chief identity, how about I guarantee this matter? Following that, he fished out a palm-sized golden token from his waist. Wasn't this the Alchemist Guild's young chief's token? The surrounding guards immediately went into an uproar, as they subconsciously took a step back. Alchemist Guild? That was the target which all the large families and powerhouses wanted to curry favor with. Yuchi family's patriarch naturally knew Mu Zifan's identity, but he had not expected that Mu Zifan would use the Alchemist Guild's young chief's identity to help Yiqing Luo time and time again. Could it be that this Mu Zifan, towards Yiqing Luo? Yuchi family's patriarch restrained the deep thoughts in his eyes as his brows creased tightly. Yiqing Luo gazed at Mu Zifan's back as her heart suddenly felt warm. This was the second time he had used the Alchemist Guild's young chief's identity to help her out of trouble. Yiqing Luo knew that Mu Zifan wasn't the kind of person who liked to bully others. She understood the reason why Mu Zifan stopped her. If she destroyed Yuchi Peng, she and Yuchi family would completely become enemies. And those people who wanted to curry favor with Yuchi family would also form groups to deal with her. Even if they killed her, they would have a dignified reason. Letting Yu Qipeng off wasn't impossible. Seeing Yu Qipeng in this way, he would definitely insist on not saying anything about the dark forces. But if she let him off just like that, then Yu Qipeng wouldn't be able to live past today. Of course, all these depended on Yu Qi family's patriarch's attitude. Yu Qi family's patriarch cared about his face, but she insisted on Yu Qi family's patriarch to give her a way out first. If Yu Qi family's patriarch insisted on making a fuss, then she naturally wouldn't have the patience to continue to tangle with Yu Qi family's patriarch. She might as well kidnap Yu Qipeng back to the world group and interrogate him properly about his relationship with the dark forces. Yiqing Luo had never been a kind person, and there was no need for her to do anything just to gain a kind reputation. Moreover, even if she let Yiqing Luo off, she might continue to be reviled. Patriarch Yuqi narrowed his eyes and stared at Mu Zifan for a long time. He could clearly see the coldness in Mu Zifan's eyes. Mu Zifan didn't seem to be joking. Patriarch Yuqi had no choice but to consider the pros and cons involved. After some careful consideration, he finally compromised. All right, we'll talk about this later for the sake of the young alliance master. After Patriarch Yuqi finished his words, he immediately shot a meaningful look towards Yiqing Luo. Now that he had loosened his mouth, if Yiqing Luo still insisted on not letting go, then it would be a slap on Mu Zifan's face. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, looking extremely enchanting, but her charming eyes were suffused with a cold glint. How boring! Her palm slowly loosened its grip on Yu Qipeng. Her pink lips moved slightly, and at the instant when her feather fan moved away, she laughed softly. Yu Qipeng, do you think that after you leave this place, you will be able to live past today? Saying that, she used both her hands to push Yu Qipeng towards Patriarch Yuqi. Several guards immediately went up and supported him. But Yu Qipeng's eyes opened wide as he stared blankly in front, his face filled with terror and astonishment. Who wasn't afraid of death? No one wasn't afraid of death. If he was afraid of death, then he wouldn't have begged Yiqing Luo to save him in the first place. Yu Qipeng understood Yiqing Luo's meaning. If he wanted to survive, then he must choose to stay. Only by staying with Yiqing Luo would he be able to obtain the guarantee of safety. But Chapter 566. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she squinted at Yu Qipeng with interest, but didn't say anything else. It was unknown what the dark forces had threatened Yu Qipeng with, to actually make him not even care about his life. Was he using the entire Yuqi family to threaten him? But since this was Yu Qipeng's choice, she would not force it. Yiqing Luo retreated back to Dmo Xian's side, as her little hand hooked onto his arm. This was an unconscious action on her part. Dmo Xian glanced sideways as he stared at the cold and stunning side profile of the woman beside him, as his eyes overflowed with a doting smile. When the crowd saw this scene, they all had different thoughts. The youths of the mercenary group covered their eyes and facepalmed. These two people really didn't let go of any opportunity to show off. I owe this dog food. Whereas for the Mu brothers, their eyes revealed an astonished look as they exchanged glances, as though they were guessing the relationship between Yiqing Luo and that man. Mu Zifei tugged at his brother's sleeves and said in a low voice, "Big brother, I told you to make your move earlier, but you didn't listen. Look at you now." Mu Zifan cast a sidelong glance at Dmo Xian and slapped the back of his hand away. His expression was still gentle, but his tone was impatient. "Don't talk nonsense." Looking at Duke Jing, who was standing beside Yu Qipeng, he didn't conceal the jealousy and hatred in his eyes as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. If it wasn't for the fact that Yuqi family's patriarch didn't dare to go against Yiqing Luo, he absolutely would have rushed up right now, pulling that adulterous couple apart. He had obviously taken a fancy to this woman. Now, she actually dared to pull on another man. Moreover, that man's appearance was way too ordinary. Yiqing Luo standing beside that man was simply like a fresh flower inserted into cow dung. Duke Jing opened his mouth and clenched his fists in hatred. The jealousy and hatred in his eyes were unstoppable. This gaze naturally attracted Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian's attention. Dmo Xian's lips curled upwards as his eyes shimmered. He intentionally lowered his head and moved closer to Yi Qing Luo's ear as he laughed lightly. "How do you feel?" "Evil heart." Every word came out from Yi Qing Luo's pink lips. She pursed her lips and turned her face away with a look of disgust. "What are you waiting for? Go." Patriarch Yuqi's heart was filled with unwillingness, but there was nothing he could do as he clenched his teeth tightly and spoke to Yi Qing Luo in an evil tone. "Seventh Miss Yi, this patriarch will visit another day." Yi Qing Luo laughed softly. That laughter was ethereal and pleasing to the ears. However, in the ears of the Yuqi patriarch, it sounded like a demon mocking his incompetence. Patriarch Yuqi's complexion was stiff. He glanced at Mu Zifan, who was standing at the side, and clenched his teeth. Still, he turned around and left. Originally, under Yu Qipeng's fanfare, he had mobilized a large number of people to look for Yi Qing Luo, wanting to take her life to wash away the Yuqi family's black mark. In the end, he was sent away just like that. In the eyes of the onlookers, the Yuqi family's departure seemed dejected. Looking at the 1,000 guards team, one after another, leaving the vicinity of the huge mansion, the frost on Yi Qing Luo's face slowly dissipated. The corners of his mouth also revealed a trace of a sincere smile. "Zifan Zifei, thank you for helping me out." The two Mu brothers shook their heads. This wasn't considered as helping Yi Qing Luo out of her predicament. They knew Yi Qing Luo's character. If she really wanted to form a feud with the Yuqi family, the Yuqi family would definitely fall into turmoil. Other than giving Patriarch Yuqi a way out, they were also thinking for their own family's sake. Once the Yuqi family was in turmoil. Chapter 567. Don't stand at the entrance, come in first. Yi Qing Luo took a step back, indicating for them to enter the mansion. There were too many commoners crowding around and standing at the entrance. It was as though they were being watched by a monkey show. The World Group's youngsters retreated to the two sides, revealing a path. The Mu brothers didn't act pretentiously, as the two of them entered the mansion one after another. The mansion's main door had just closed when Mu Zifan sighed softly. "Qing Luo, I know you're not a rash person, and I know you're a sentimental person. Today's matter, although I'm not sure what exactly happened, but you shouldn't have clashed with the Yuqi family." Mu Zifan and Yi Qing Luo had interacted for a few days, and towards Yi Qing Luo's character, he more or less had some understanding. He naturally believed that Yi Qing Luo wouldn't make a move on the Yuqi family for no reason. But today's timing wasn't right. You're not afraid of the Yuqi family, but you should more or less consider for the people around you. Mu Zifan's peripheral vision shot a glance at those 10 over youngsters who were following behind. These young faces looked extremely unfamiliar. Apparently they were youngsters who were inexperienced. They saw it very clearly. Earlier when they rushed over, they saw these youngsters standing behind Yi Qing Luo. Facing thousands of experienced guards, they were clearly afraid, but the look in their eyes remained firm and determined. None of them retreated because of fear. All of them stood behind Yi Qing Luo, becoming her strongest fortress. These people were sincerely comrades with Yi Qing Luo. Because of this, Mu Zifan was willing to raise this suggestion to Yi Qing Luo. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, she went into a slight daze. Her gaze subconsciously fell onto those brothers behind her. She finally understood the reason why Mu Zifan stopped her. Once upon a time she was alone. No matter where she went, no matter what dangerous mission she took, she was forever alone. She had also developed the habit of doing things alone. Now with these brothers and sisters, from the moment she placed these people in her heart, she had always remembered that she wasn't alone but a team. Her every action, every word and action, could possibly affect the entire team. If she really chopped off Yu Qipeng's other hand earlier, these youngsters around her would definitely be targeted by the Yuqi family. "Thank you for your advice, luckily you stopped me." Yi Qing Luo's smile bloomed like a flower. The Mu brothers chuckled and said, "If you want to thank us, you can treat us to a meal in the canteen after the academy reopens." "No problem." Yiqing Luo nodded without hesitation. Turning around, he changed the topic. Oh, right, about Yuqi Peng. Follow me to the hall. They talked as they walked. And along the way, the other brothers also dispersed. Too many things had happened today. When they thought of the even more serious mission that awaited them tomorrow, the youths naturally chose to suppress the excitement in their hearts and return to their rooms to rest. The huge mansion suddenly became much quieter. In the lobby, after everyone was seated, Yiqing Luo didn't hold back at all as she told them about how Yuqi Peng and Duke Jing had fallen into the Dark Forces trap, and how they had signed the soul contract with the Dark Forces, almost being swallowed up. The Mu brothers looked at each other. Mu Zifei revealed an astonished expression. This is actually true. Dark Forces, the beast that was expelled by the Nirvana realm, had actually returned? There must be a reason why the Dark Forces would hide in the dark. Yiqing Luo's expression was grave as she looked at them. The Dark Forces kept on using powerful energy to lure the cultivators to sign the contract with them, and subsequently swallowing the other party's soul. This action is too abnormal. Chapter 568. Indeed, this wasn't normal. Dark Forces. This force had already disappeared for several decades. All along, they were the forces which were expelled by Nirvana realm. He had only occasionally heard about this dark power from the mouth of the previous generation. Today, the Dark Forces had appeared once again, and in such a manner. Could it be? Were they preparing to make a comeback? You must be careful of the Dark Forces. That profoundine energy is indeed powerful, but it ultimately isn't yours. If you lose yourself for a short-term benefit, then you will be consigned to eternal damnation. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, as she kept away the deep thoughts in her eyes, as she opened her mouth to remind them. The hearts of the Mu brothers were filled with shock at this moment. Dark Forces could make use of this energy to swallow a cultivator's soul. How many cultivators would be hooked? It was simply an unknown number. After all, which cultivator didn't thirst for power? Even they too thirsted for power. They couldn't help but feel deeply moved that this Yiqing Luo was still young, but her comprehension was not what most people could achieve. They had to investigate on what motive this dark force, which was hiding in the dark, had. Moreover, such a matter had happened in the world group today, so they should have something to say within the group. Mu brothers then got up and bade farewell. By the time they sent the Mu brothers out of the mansion, everyone's expressions in the main hall instantly turned grave. Yiqing Luo returned to the chair and sat down as her eyes were deep. From the current situation, Yuqi family will not find any trouble today. But in future, they will definitely not let this matter rest. Everyone nodded. Before Yuqi family's patriarch left, he left behind that sentence. Apparently, he had already bore a grudge against Yiqing Luo. What we need to do is to raise the group's ability. Long Yunjian, who had always been silent, opened his mouth calmly, as his azure blue eyes looked at Yiqing Luo quietly. Xiao Jin agreed. We're not afraid of Yuqi family but the others. That might not be the case. Although the world group's youngsters were in devil class, and had gone through their training, their profound grade and skills overall standard was considered to be extremely high. But they lacked experience. They lacked actual combat experience. Just like Bei Ming Lian Cheng. Why was he able to advance to profound grade in the process of climbing the iron wire? That was because when he was close to death, his mental state had some comprehension, hence he was able to advance. Just as what Yiqing Luo had said, the only way to become stronger was through continuous battles. Based on the situation of the past 2 days, these youths were still too inexperienced. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo's arrival, reminding them, they would probably still lock these students in devil class for secret training. Long Yunjian and Xiao Jin exchanged glances. Suddenly, there was a lofty sentiment that spread out in their hearts. Perhaps, they might even have the confidence to emerge as the champion of the interclass tournament 8 months later. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she muttered to herself for a moment. It was easy to increase one's profound rank and strength. They had been doing this all along. However, Raising one's strength was not something that could be done in a day. Some experts were often stuck at a bottleneck, unable to advance for years or even decades. Not to mention these youths who had yet to completely open their hearts. Tomorrow was the last day of the holiday. It seemed that she had to lead these people to the magical beast forest. The magical beast forest was a place where magical beasts roamed freely. The last time she followed Dmo Xian, she reached the 6th level. This time, her goal was the 5th level. The 5th level, it wasn't just magical beasts. Chapter 569. Why don't everyone rest early to conserve your energy? Tomorrow morning, group leader will go to the mercenary group to take on 10 high-leveled missions related to the Magic Beast Forest. What do you think? Magic Beast Forest? That place. These youngsters had never been to that place before. But Yi Qing Luo's suggestion, Long Yunjian didn't say anything, so the others naturally had no objections. Unknowingly, Yi Qing Luo had already unknowingly become their center. Long Yunjian's eyes flashed slightly, as his eyes revealed a glint of admiration. This was indeed a good way to kill two birds with one stone. Not only could it help the world group gain more honor points, it could also improve their own training. But whether they could complete the mission would depend on everyone's ability. Subconsciously, Long Yunjian looked towards Dmo Xian, who was seated beside Yi Qing Luo, wanting to see what opinions he had. But he saw Dmo Xian's pair of narrow peach blossom eyes, from the start till the end, had never left Yi Qing Luo's side profile. His eyes were filled with gentleness, a gentleness which belonged to Yi Qing Luo alone. His slender fingers held a cup of tea, as he leisurely drank the tea. He wasn't worried at all, as though he was extremely assured towards Yi Qing Luo, and believed in all the suggestions which Yi Qing Luo raised. The questions which Long Yunjian wanted to ask eventually stopped in his mouth. These 2 days, Dmo Xian's attitude towards Yi Qing Luo was the clearest to them. Dmo Xian would never easily obstruct Yi Qing Luo's growth and improvement. This kind of free love was enough to prove Dmo Xian's sincerity towards Yi Qing Luo. In his mind, Xiao Jin's words suddenly rang. "Ah Zhan, we have a good brother, a very good brother." Long Yunjian's hand suddenly clenched tightly. The next morning, the group of them were all ready to set off. The youngsters in the world group were exceptionally excited. This was the last day of their holiday, and it was also their first time going on a large-scale mission as a group. Magic Beast Forest. That place which numerous mercenary groups wanted to go on experience training. This was their first time going, so their hearts were filled with anticipation. Magic Beast Forest. Other than mercenary groups going on missions, there were many academies classes, large families, young masters, and young ladies, etc., who went on various experience training here. Magic Beast Forest's high-leveled missions. Once it's completed, there will be a total of 80 mercenary group credit points, and there will be other medicinal herbs as rewards. Long Yunjian arranged the mission scroll, which he had just received as he spoke. 10 high-level missions for only 80 mercenary group honor points? Thinking about it, a high-level rare mission actually rewarded 150 honor points. As expected, that mission had been categorized incorrectly. Speaking of the reward, Yi Qing Luo turned her head and looked at Long Yunjian. "Yesterday I handed in that high-grade rare mission's reward. I need 2 medicinal herbs." Back then what attracted her the most was the 2 medicinal herbs. Long Yunjian took out all the rewards from the metal space and placed them on the table. The sound of 500 gold coins clattering against each other was crisp and clear. The eyes of the youths were about to pop out. Profound Ice Immortal Root, Infant Grass. I only want these 2 ingredients. Yi Qing Luo took the 2 herbs over. The mercenary group's development cannot be without the support of money. Now all the money earned from the missions, temporarily store it. It is very important for the future development. These 2 herbs. Biming Lulu narrowed her eyes, as she fiddled with the Profound Ice Immortal Root and sniffed it. Isn't this medicine used to treat bone injuries? When the youngsters heard that, they immediately looked towards Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 570. Yiqing Luo shook her head. Not me. Biming Lulu picked up another medicinal herb with a bit of confusion in her eyes. These two herbs were both medicinal herbs used to treat bone injuries. However, could these two medicinal ingredients be used together to refine an elixir? What kind of medicinal pill was being refined? There didn't seem to be such a prescription in his memory. When the refinement is successful, I will write down the prescription for you. Yiqing Luo saw that Biming Lulu was attracted by the medicinal herbs and knew that she was an alchemy fanatic. When she saw the medicinal herbs and herself not knowing how to refine pills, her interest was piqued. Xiao Jin clapped his hands, indicating for everyone to look at him. All right, everyone, do your best. After completing the mission, the leader will treat you all to a good meal. Tomorrow, you will have to return to the academy. The youths cheered. Ha ha ha, let's go. Let's go. I heard that the training in the magical beast forest is a real training. Of course, that is the realm of actual combat. Why don't we have a competition to see who can hunt more magical beasts and complete more missions? Looking at the youngsters' noisy looks, Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with warmth. She really liked this feeling. Everyone was full of vigor and hope for the future. She had to work harder to improve her profound rank and become stronger. At the very least, as the vice-captain of these youths, she should protect them well. She smiled. The man behind her also stared at her and smiled. The group of people left the mansion in a mighty manner. Every youth's heart was filled with curiosity and anticipation towards the unknown. However, the group of people did not notice that after they left the mansion, a sneaky figure hiding in the dark was quietly watching them. After sending off the world group with his eyes, that figure muttered softly, "Magical Beast Forest." Then, he quickly left in the opposite direction of those youths. Shortly after, an old man in a new white robe walked out of the mansion. He stroked his beard, looked at the sneaky figure meaningfully, and shook his head with a smile. It was better to leave the matters of the young to the young. Thus, he did not lend a helping hand. What's more, the little girl didn't seem to need his help. Since he was picked up by the little girl, he would guard this mansion for the little girl. With this thought in mind, the old man leisurely strolled back into the mansion. The youngsters of the world group stopped at the entrance of the magic beast forest. The breeze was chilly, and the ground was covered with withered leaves that had sunk into the soil. There were also countless footprints of horses, magical beasts, and humans. There was a fishy smell in the humid air. As far as the eye could see, apart from the lush forest and trees, there was more lush forest and trees. Dense branches and leaves grew all over the place. Only a faint ray of light could be seen. Just the outer perimeter alone gave off a dangerous aura. The youth's legs were trembling from excitement and excitement. While they were standing at the entrance, there were also neat teams that walked past them. There were 30-man teams, 50-man teams, and 100-man teams among them. He looked majestic and handsome. The youth stared at those teams in a daze. The blood in their hearts was boiling. Exciting. It was too exciting. From now on, they had also become a part of such a handsome team. Are you guys ready? Yiqing Luo's cold voice was filled with an irresistible charm. The youngsters immediately puffed out their chests, as their voices were loud and clear. Ready. Chapter 571. Fifth level? The youngsters' hearts suddenly jolted. They thought that they would at most be messing around in the third level. Only then did they realize that the missions that their guild leader had accepted were all missions at the 5th level. They should be laughing and saying that their group leader had thought too highly of them. Or should they be crying and howling that their group leader wanted their lives? However, the mission which their group leader had taken on, their vice group leader was the accomplice. So even if they had to kneel down, they had to complete the mission. Under the leadership of the few of them, the youngsters took their first step forward without any hesitation. They started from the 1st level and moved upwards. Along the way, Yiqing Luo and the rest walked at the front, and when they saw magical beasts, they would give way without any intention to make a move. Whereas for those youngsters behind them, Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao Yi, according to their abilities, were split into 10 over groups of 5 to carry out hunting of the magical beasts. Whereas Shiju and Little Nine followed behind, picking up the magic cores. First and second level magical beasts. Their levels were rather low, and their magic cores were few and far between. Just like this, the group of them directly killed their way to the 4th level. The youngsters at this moment were all stained with blood. Some of them, but most of them were the bloodstains of the magical beasts. And the more they fought, the more courageous they became. From the initial apprehension, to the later part where it was smooth sailing, the 5-man team's coordination became more and more tacit. From the initial frantic killing of magical beasts, to the instantaneous killing of a magical beast. At this moment, they had also deeply understood what Yi Qing Luo had said. Only through battle was the only way to become stronger. 4th-level magical beasts were all intermediate-level magical beasts, with some high-leveled magical beasts mixed in. As compared to the 3rd level and below, their abilities had increased by more than 1-fold. The youngsters' battle speed, because of the magical beasts becoming stronger, became slower and slower. Group leader, quickly look. There's another group of mercenary group in front. Suddenly, a loud and clear man's voice was heard from not too far away. Yi Qing Luo, Long Yun Zhan, and the rest stood by the side, carefully observing every youngster's actions, occasionally opening their mouths to give some pointers. Suddenly hearing a stranger's voice, Yi Qing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw a mercenary group popping out from the forest. They were dressed in a blue-colored mercenary group uniform, and the mercenary group badge on their chest indicated that they were a bronze plate mercenary group. Looking at it, it should be a 100-men group. Appearing at the 4th level, and on the same path as them, it should be a high-level mission team, heading towards the 5th line. As soon as the man finished speaking, a man with a long blade in his hand crossed the forest. The man's facial features were decent, and his attire was slightly different from the other members. A majestic azure dragon totem was embroidered at the bottom of the man's clothes. From the looks of it, this man's position in this mercenary group was quite high. Guild leader, these people seemed to be heading towards the 5th level as well. When that man heard that, his brows creased slightly as he squinted his eyes, and impolitely sized up Yi Qing Luo and the others. His gaze swept across the youths who were fighting, and then swept across the 7 people, who were chatting leisurely at the side. His eyes were filled with disdain. They are just a bunch of trash who overestimate themselves. There is no need to take them to heart. After saying that, the man who was addressed as the leader snorted, and turned around to return to his team. Hearing their leader say this, the other members were relieved. A useless mercenary group could not affect them at all. Since they wouldn't snatch the quest items from them, then they didn't care. Yi Qing Luo gave a light laugh as her lips curled upwards in ridicule. There were really a lot of arrogant people. Chapter 572. Yi Qing Luo didn't put her attention on that mercenary group, but swept a glance at the surrounding youngsters who had placed their attention on this side, as she spoke out coldly. Concentrate when you're in battle. Those youngsters immediately retracted their gazes, as they continued to kill the magical beasts in front of them. Hearing the lady's clear voice, that blue-robed group leader's footsteps halted. A pair of squinted eyes filled with disdain stared at Yi Qing Luo. That imposing manner made even him subconsciously want to straighten his back and listen to orders. What was going on? Noticing the blue-robed group leader's gaze, Yin Xiaoyi's spirited eyes flashed as her eyes revealed a sliver of ridicule. Yo, that trashy mercenary group in front. Do you think that just because you're wearing a blue dragon embroidered uniform, you really think that you're a dragon among men? From what we see, you're at most maggots. In Devil class, they had endured being labeled as a trashy class, unable to retaliate. Now that they were outside, they didn't bear the name of Devil class. On what basis did they have to swallow their anger? After all, in the eyes of outsiders, they were people who came out from the imperial palace. Maggots. Saying maggots is an insult to maggots. Xiao Jin's brows rose as his ordinary face was filled with ridicule. When the other youngsters who were killing magical beasts heard that, they immediately burst out laughing. These two people were just too sarcastic. A perfectly fine dragon was said to be worse than maggots. The blue-robed group leader's face turned as black as charcoal. You bunch of trash. We are the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. How dare you insult us? One of the members behind the blue-robed group leader's face flushed red as he pointed at Xiao Jin and bellowed in rage. What maggots? They were obviously the mighty and domineering blue dragon. Yen Xiaoyi gave out an exaggerated laugh and immediately covered her mouth as a pair of bright and beautiful eyes concealed a smile. So the so-called Blue Dragon Mercenary Group is just a bunch of maggots like you. I thought this mercenary group was very powerful, but I didn't expect it to be just so-so. After they had established their mercenary group, they had more or less paid attention to the other mercenary groups. And this Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, according to their understanding, was a large-scale bronze plate mercenary group with 900 over people. Perhaps they had more members, but because they hadn't accumulated enough honor points, they were unable to advance to Silver Plate Mercenary Group. Hence, there was a maximum number of members. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's backing seemed to be some other continent's family's group. Because of this, he had a bit of a reputation in the mercenary guild. He didn't expect it to be such a brainless team. Yen Xiaoyi's words completely infuriated the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members. Each of them glared at them with a ferocious gaze like that of a wild beast. Not too long later, 100 people surrounded Yi Qing Luo and the others in the center. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's group leader Jitsang Tian wiped the blood off his long sword as his lips curled into a cold smile as he looked at them in disdain. His eyes were filled with rage. However, he still pretended to be magnanimous. Small teams, don't be too arrogant. It wasn't easy for me to reach the 4th level. If I were to provoke someone I shouldn't provoke, it wouldn't be worth it. His words were filled with threat. Yen Xiaoyi's smile was even more exaggerated, and just as she was about to open her mouth, she was stopped by Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 573. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members were choked till they couldn't rebuke her. Just as the situation was extremely strange, they heard rustling sounds coming from the other end of the forest. Brother Songtian, accompanied by a crisp sound, a middle-grade wolf beast slowly walked over. On the wolf beast's back sat a young lady dressed in a pink silk floor-length dress. She had a youthful and beautiful hair tied up as her footwear jingled. Looking at the young lady's dressing, Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched. Did this fellow come to the Magic Beast Forest for sightseeing, or for experience learning? Riding on a magic beast and dressed so heavily, if they met with danger, this set of equipment, would it affect their escape? Young lady's words are wrong. The young lady's slender eyebrows rose as her tone was arrogant. Brother Songtian isn't bullying your new mercenary group. But seeing your mercenary group being so disharmonious, he stood on the old mercenary group's standpoint and gave some guidance. While the young lady was speaking, she casted a disdainful glance at Yi Qing Luo. It wasn't hard to tell that after she saw Yi Qing Luo, her eyes were filled with jealousy. The minute the young lady spoke, Jitsang Tian's face immediately rose into a smile as he nodded his head. Sister Nua is right. This group leader is guiding them. That flattering smile on his face didn't attract the young lady Lanling Nua's attention at all. Lanling Nua's pair of watery eyes stared arrogantly at Yi Qing Luo. She had always been extremely confident towards her own looks. In this West continent, the most famous beauty was Three Springs City's #1 beauty Yi family's eldest young Miss Yi Qing Qian. She had seen her before, and she wasn't as beautiful as her. She had not expected. But today she met someone much more beautiful than Yi Qing Qian, than her. Lanling Nua's eyes were filled with thick jealousy and unwillingness. Her slender hands under her sleeves clenched into fists. She tried her best to control her tone as she used a gentle tone. The few of you should be your mercenary group's bosses, right? Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she naturally saw the young lady's hostility towards her, as she felt that it was funny. Lanling Nua continued. As the core members of the team members are doing their best to kill the demonic beasts. But you guys are leisurely chatting and having fun at the side. Your team leader has bosses like you guys. It's really. With that, she didn't continue speaking. She only sneered disdainfully. She didn't need to say anything. Jitsong Tian instantly laughed out loudly. That's right, that's right. Look at me. I'm fighting with my teammates, killing magical beasts with my brothers. That's what a team is. Immediately after, he looked at Lan Ling Nua. His flattering manner was like a puppy that had gotten a bone. Sister Nua, tell me, am I right? Lan Ling Nua's gaze finally shifted towards him. She then flashed a smile and nodded vigorously. Brother Songtian is right. Are they a pair of idiots? The two of them were a perfect match. Arrogant and conceited. He wouldn't even know how he died one day. Lan Ling Nua's words infuriated the surrounding youths who were killing magical beasts. One of the small team had just finished off the magical beasts in their hands as they raised their weapons and rushed up, pointing at Lan Ling Nua as they shouted angrily. Who said the team leader is leisurely? What's called a team? You don't know anything at all. On what basis are you slandering our team leader? When one of them opened his mouth, the other small teams couldn't help but roared out. These youngsters were still young, and had not experienced the affairs of the world. These people could slander them, but slandering the person whom they revered was even more unacceptable than killing them. Enough! Yi Qing Luo's cold voice was devoid of any emotions. Chapter 574. Vice Commander. Those youngsters retracted their arrogance under Yi Qing Luo's aura. He silently returned to Yi Qing Luo's back. Ha! Look at that bunch of trash, they are indeed trash. A member of the Blue Dragon mercenary group let out a mocking laugh. That's right. Do you think that you're an expert just because you've reached the 4th level? You still want to go against our Blue Dragon mercenary group? Is a small mercenary group qualified? I really don't know what these pieces of trash are doing here. They are as timid as mice. The sounds of ridicule caused the rage that the youths had suppressed with great difficulty to surge up again. This was especially so for Qiao Jin. He held the coin dart in his hand tightly, and was about to throw it at those people who were mocking him. But he was stopped by Yi Qing Luo. Forget it. We are only at the 4th level. The 5th level magical beasts are more dangerous. Don't waste your energy because of these rubbish. The youths were startled, and the anger on their faces dissipated. That's right. Long blade their to purpose in coming to the magical beast forest that he almost dropped his long blade onto the ground. It was not worth it for them to waste their energy. The members of the Blue Dragon mercenary group were not going to let him reach the 5th level. With a shout, he charged so-called forbearance was not a sign of weakness. Naturally, wouldn't allow them to bully them to judge the situation as they raised their weapons and make the best choice for themselves. For a moment, the entire 4th line became chaotic. Nor was it soft. The two teams were entangled together. Naturally heard it clearly. Slender brows creased slightly as she and Diamo Shan moved closer to the 5th level. Eyes widened in anger as transmitted her voice through the mercenary group badge. However, all brothers moved closer to the 5th level. Youngsters along. Them off. As though she totally disregarded them as she walked straight ahead. It would definitely be a huge problem. The youths passed by them one by one. It was the last day of holiday, and Yi Qing Luo pain on didn't want to waste any more time. As though his pride had been stepped into the mud by the other party, who was riding on the wolf beast. A strand of profound energy burst out of his body towards this direction. He brandished the long sword in his hand, Lan Ling Nua felt that in the chaotic battle, she would inevitably narrowed her eyes as her heart suddenly felt exquisitely today. He then saw in order to raise the Blue Dragon mercenary group's which was flickering with orange light to make a move. Looking at the star pattern under his feet, and a man hiding in this direction, Earth Profound Rank 2, naturally followed along. Looking at Jitsong Tian's age, he was at most 25 or 26. He had already reached the 2nd level of the Earth Profound realm. Chapter 575. That he was so arrogant. Lan Ling Nua muttered to herself irresolutely. The pain from the fall was a small matter, to raise her but if she were to ruin her meticulously dressed up, otherwise she wouldn't be able to catch up with the others. But the pain that she imagined on his footwork and teleportation into a warm was not a long-term solution. That embrace was incomparably wide, and through the thin cloud down, she seemed to be able to feel the warmth as a gold coin behind her. Past. A sandalwood fragrance entered her nostrils. Lan Ling Nua subconsciously opened her eyes and looked at the person behind her. This glance met with a pair of sparkling peach blossom eyes, as though it was a whirlpool, sucking her soul into it completely. The face that entered her eyes was so ordinary and ordinary, but unfortunately, That pair of peach blossom eyes added a unique charm to that ordinary face. Lan Lingnua's heart suddenly started to beat rapidly. Her eyes were filled with shyness as she put on a smile which she thought was the most beautiful as both her hands wrapped around his neck, speaking in a sweet voice. "Little brother, thank." Ah. Lan Lingnua had just opened her mouth when her body suddenly turned light, as she fell onto the ground. "You!" Lan Lingnua stared at Dmo Xian in disbelief, totally unable to believe that there would actually be a man who rejected her. He had obviously caught her. Wasn't it to be a hero saving a damsel in distress? He actually pushed her away. Lan Lingnua's eyes were filled with astonishment, as she could clearly feel that Dmo Xian had let go of her without any hesitation. Following that, he was expressionless as he watched her fall onto the ground with an apathetic gaze. Following that, as though he was infected with germs, he pulled out a handkerchief and wiped his hands. Dmo Xian was moving swiftly, and the minute he let go, due to inertia, Lan Lingnua fell onto the ground and was blown by the strong gale as she tumbled. The surrounding was lush, and the ground was filled with branches mixed with soil. This tumble caused Lan Lingnua's pink soft silk clothes to be ripped open, and finally with a tearing sound, her sleeves were ripped off from her shoulders, and her pink underwear could be seen indistinctly. Her meticulously bundled hair was hooked onto the branches, and strands of hair were ripped off as her scalp started to hurt. "Sister Nua!" Jitsong Tian's heart shuddered fiercely as he hurriedly ran up and carried the disheveled Lan Lingnua into his arms. When he looked down, he could see the beautiful figure of a woman under the white arm that was exposed after Lan Lingnua was torn apart. Jitsong Tian's throat moved as he forcefully swallowed a mouthful of saliva and removed his outer robe, draping it over Lan Lingnua. "Bitch! B*TCH." Lan Lingnua was so angry that her entire body was trembling. Her battered face was contorted to the extreme. Jitsong Tian had never seen her in this state, and he was momentarily stunned as the hand, which was wrapping her clothes, froze. Lan Lingnua realized that she had lost her composure and forcefully suppressed the anger and fury in her heart. She pinched herself hard with the hand that was wrapped under the robe. At that moment, Lan Lingnua's beautiful eyes oozed out a drop of blood. Instantly, the beauty's tears rolled down her cheeks. "Brother Tsangtian! Brother Tsangtian!" Those choking sounds of sobbing made Jitsong Tian's heart hurt. Lan Lingnua cried and cried as she pounced into Jitsong Tian's arms, calling out in an extremely aggrieved manner. She didn't say a single word, as she kept calling out Jitsong Tian's name. Jitsong Tian's body tensed up as his hands slowly landed on Lan Lingnua's petite body after some time. This was the woman whom he loved, the woman whom he had chased for a long time, but had not managed to get his hands on. Now that she had pounced into his arms, how could he not be agitated? But the woman whom he loved was crying so sadly. Thinking of that mercenary group which made Lan Lingnua cry, a layer of ice surfaced on Jitsong Tian's face. Chapter 576. Yiqing Luo didn't know that she was hated by the Blue Dragon mercenary group. Even if she knew, it didn't matter to her. In her eyes, that kind of conceited group wasn't worth her effort. Yiqing Luo led the world group as she stepped into the 5th level. The minute they entered the 5th level region, the surrounding atmosphere apparently turned heavy. The air seemed to be filled with a damp blood stench. Those youngsters who were originally talking about that mercenary group earlier, and talking about that arrogant mercenary group slowly stopped talking under this strange atmosphere. One by one, the youngsters subconsciously puffed out their chests as they vigilantly released their senses. Danger. Everything here was giving off a dangerous vibe. It was different from the relaxed feeling of the 4th level and below. Everywhere here was filled with a sense of oppression. Even their breathing seemed to be cautious. "Remember your motive for coming here." Yiqing Luo suppressed her voice as her vision swept past all the youngsters. "For those unimportant people, or before the mission is completed, don't bother about them. After the mission is completed, I won't stop you however you want to play with them." Towards the Blue Dragon mercenary group, if the world group's youngsters really wanted to make a move, Yiqing Luo wouldn't stop them, because she was afraid of trouble. What's more, she hoped that the World Group's youngsters would have a battle with the Blue Dragon mercenary group. However, he had to prioritize his priorities before doing anything. If for Blue Dragon mercenary group, they had to sacrifice the World Group's youngsters' energy, causing them to be unable to complete the 10 high-leveled missions, then it wasn't worth it. The World Mercenary Group itself didn't have the advantage in terms of numbers. If they were to sacrifice their manpower here, there was totally no need. The youngsters' eyes lit up. The meaning was, as long as they completed the mission, they would be able to teach that Jitsong Tian a harsh lesson? Facing the youngsters' hopeful gazes, Yiqing Luo chose to ignore them, as she intentionally didn't say anything. Following that, she looked at Long Yunjian. Group leader, what's our mission? 10 missions. Long Yunjian's voice was calm as he said faintly, 7 missions are to kill high-leveled magical beasts and obtain their magical beast cores, skin and bones. Among them, we need 2 wolf beasts and we need wolf teeth and fur. 3 bear beasts, we need the entire bear beast and not a single part can be missing. There's another one that's more difficult. The Mercenary Union has specifically suggested that I choose carefully, which is to kill 2 goshawks. The youths were all dumbfounded. Their legs froze on the spot, not daring to move. Kill a high-level magical beast? Are you sure you're not joking? It was a wolf beast. Berserk beasts and eagle beasts. Not to mention 7, even if just 1 high-level magical beast came, they would probably suffer. Furthermore, he wanted to kill the goshawk demonic beast? Oh my god. Do you know what the goshawk is capable of? That was a bird flying in the sky. How could they possibly kill it? The youth gulped nervously. After a long while, they finally found their voices and asked in a trembling voice, what about the other 3 missions? Dig out the herbs at the edge of the gap between the 5th and 6th levels. As soon as this mission was announced, the youth's faces immediately became lifeless. These F*King quests were all deadly quests. Don't look at how easy it was to dig up the medicinal herbs. The key was it was at the edge between the 5th and 6th lines. That was the place where magical beasts were most likely to appear. Especially in the magical beast forest, all the medicinal herbs were under the control of the magical beasts. If they were to dig the medicinal herbs and attracted the magical beast's attention. Chapter 577. Yiqing Luo's eyes were in deep thoughts as she regrouped all these missions in her mind. Based on the youngsters' abilities, if they were to split into 5 people to deal with high-leveled magical beasts, it was not possible. High-leveled magical beasts as compared to intermediate-leveled magical beasts was not just a difference of 1 level. Why not? Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she discussed with Long Yunjian. Group leader, 7 high-leveled magical beasts. It's too dangerous to split them up. Why not we do the same mission together? Splitting them up was not only dangerous, but to the youngsters, it was too strenuous. But 60 over people working together to deal with 1 high-leveled magical beast. As long as there was a good command and coordination, the efficiency would be much higher than splitting them up to hunt the magical beasts. Long Yunjian nodded. This way, it's beneficial to train everyone's coordination. The youngsters naturally didn't have any opinion on the method, which group leader and assistant group leader had discussed. Moreover, working together in a team was indeed safer, and it could nurture everyone's rapport. Everyone on the 5th level didn't dare to act like what they did on the 4th level, swaggering in the forest, not fearing the magical beasts at all. Everyone walked extremely carefully. The youngsters with higher perceptive sense and faster speed led the way in front, while the 60 over youngsters followed behind. Whereas Yiqing Luo and the rest walked at the back of the crowd. The few of them didn't say a single word, but carefully sized up these youngsters' expressions, as well as their vigilance and reaction when facing danger. Occasionally, when they saw some rare medicinal herbs, Yiqing Luo and Beiming Lulu would drop out of the group and quietly harvest them. The duo's coordination wasn't too bad, as they didn't cause any disturbances among the magical beasts. In the process of heading towards the mission, they harvested over 10 types of medicinal herbs. Following that, they caught up with the group. The mission to kill 2 wolf beasts was considered as the easiest among the 3 types of magical beasts. But the youngsters expressed the immense pressure. High-leveled wolf beasts were around the size of an adult tiger. Their fangs were sharp and their claws were sharp, especially their speed was extremely fast. Most importantly, wolf beasts were pack animals. They had no way to attract a single wolf beast to one side for hunting. Once one wolf beast was attracted, the rest of the wolf beasts would instantly rush over. By then, if they were surrounded by 10 over high-leveled wolf beasts, it wouldn't be them hunting the wolf beasts, but the wolf beasts would be preying on them. Wolf beasts have their own territory. As long as we lure the high-ranked wolf beasts out of their territory, then we can make our move. The other high-ranked wolf beasts won't be able to rush over. Yiqing Luo recalled that in the books which she had read at Ghost Doctor's place, it had recorded this part of the magic beast forest. Because there were many rare medicinal herbs in the 5th level, the book specifically recorded the method of obtaining medicinal herbs. It was specially marked that the magical beasts of the 5th level all had their own territories. If an alchemist was discovered by a territory's magical beast while picking medicinal herbs, all the magical beasts in the territory would attack. However, if they escaped from the territory of the magical beasts, the pursuing magical beasts would give up on their pursuit. Of course, the beast tide was not an unstable factor. When Long Yunjian heard that, his handsome brows creased slightly as his azure blue eyes revealed some puzzlement, as though he didn't understand how Yiqing Luo knew about the matters regarding the magical beast's territory. When the other youths heard this, they saw Baiming Liancheng's eager expression. "Group leader, vice group leader, let me try." The youth's face was filled with excitement and agitation. He did not cower or try to be brave at all. He exuded an aura of confidence. Chapter 578. Baiming Liancheng's skills weren't bad at all. After coming out from Death God Castle, he had consecutively risen by 2 levels, and his skills had become even more agile. After obtaining Long Yunjian's permission, he leapt up and burrowed into the bushes. In a blink of an eye, he had already lost track of him. His presence seemed to have disappeared. The youngsters searched for a long time and released their senses. They couldn't sense Baiming Liancheng's presence at all. Yiqing Luo nodded her head satisfactorily. No wonder Baiming Liancheng dared to volunteer himself. So he had this ability. He was able to conceal his presence completely, blending into one with the surrounding environment. Like a chameleon, he was able to conceal himself at all times. Baiming Liancheng hid in the dark as he kept nearing the wolf pack. Not too long later, he saw 10 over wolf beasts gathering by the stream to drink water. This stream flowed down from the 7th level, all the way to the 1st level. There were only 2 such streams in the entire magic beast forest for the magic beasts to draw water from. 10 over wolf beasts would raise their heads from time to time as their mouths gave out sharp howls. After howling for a while, they bent over to drink water. Groping around, after about half an incense's time, those 10 over wolf beasts left in a group. Just at this moment, the last wolf beast howled as its entire body was flung out fiercely. That wolf beast, which was the size of a tiger, directly broke a thick and sturdy tree. A whoop, waves and waves of wolf howls rang continuously. The wolf pack's sharp eyes looked around as their noses twitched, but they didn't smell anything strange nearby, nor did they smell any dangerous presence. After howling for some time, eventually these wolf beasts all gave up. But that wolf beast which was flung out suddenly opened its eyes as it revealed an ominous glint as its mouth opened wide, revealing its sharp fangs. Its huge fat body slowly got up from the ground. Following that, its gaze stared towards a certain direction in the depths of the forest, as its body shot out like an arrow as it charged forward. The pack of wolf beasts behind didn't understand what was going on. By the time they wanted to catch up with their companion's footsteps, they had already lost sight of that wolf beast. Yiqing Luo and the rest stood at their original spots, waiting for Baiming Liancheng. Everyone was curious. What method would Baiming Liancheng use to lure one wolf beast over? At this moment, a figure suddenly sprang out from the bushes. At the same time, Yiqing Luo shouted, "Spread out, surround them." The youngsters in the world group had long developed the habit of moving subconsciously when they heard orders. Upon hearing Yi Qing Luo's command, everyone swiftly dispersed, forming an encirclement. A huge wolf beast leaped into their encirclement. What was going on? It really was a wolf beast, a lone wolf beast. Why are you still in a daze attack? Yi Qing Luo's cold voice rang out sharply. Only then did the youths come to their senses. They gripped the weapons in their hands and began to attack the wolf beast. Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi commanded while Yi Qing Luo retreated to one side. She looked at Baiming Liancheng, who was wiping his sweat. There was still a trace of shock on his face, but when he saw the youths kill that wolf beast together, his eyes were filled with satisfaction. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled slightly as she walked over and lightly patted his shoulder. Liancheng, you've done well. This encouragement was extremely light, extremely slow, and contained a tinge of gentleness. Baiming Liancheng's body stiffened as the hand which was wiping his sweat squatted on his forehead. He turned his head and met with Yi Qing Luo's smiling eyes. Chapter 579. She had to admit that Baiming Liancheng's reaction was fast, and he was an intelligent person. After Yi Qing Luo got closer to him, she smelled a trace of medicinal herb smell from him. This smell was what she smelled when they passed by the other beast clan's territories. Yi Qing Luo roughly guessed the method which Baiming Liancheng used. The wolf beast just now must have been attracted by the smell of the herbs. Yi Qing Luo patted his shoulder once again as she revealed a gentle smile. Go on. Baiming Liancheng's eyes shone slightly as he nodded his head vigorously, and immediately dived into the bushes to search for the next wave of wolf pack. This method could only be used once for the same wave of wolf pack. Otherwise, the second time, these magical beasts which had their own consciousness would definitely discover something amiss. Yi Qing Luo turned around and looked at the youngsters who were struggling with the wolf beasts. At this moment, she didn't know that her one encouragement made a youngster's inner heart gradually become strong and filled with hope. Using the same method, the youngsters hunted 2 wolf beasts and sliced the corpses according to their body parts, placing them into their space bags in batches. After 2 consecutive wolf beasts, the youngsters were already exhausted. Yi Qing Luo had already found an empty space with a huge rock for everyone to rest and replenish their energy. 1 hour later, the youngsters started their journey. The last time Yi Qing Luo came here, she had already memorized the rough topography of the magic beast forest in her mind. She directly led the youngsters towards the bear beast's territory. Occasionally, there were several advanced leveled magical beasts walking around. Yi Qing Luo and the others carefully avoided them. It was until they entered the boundary of the bear beast's territory when they stopped in their tracks. Yi Qing Luo used the mercenary group badge to transmit her understanding towards the bear beast to the youngsters. Bear beasts were solitary magical beasts and didn't have the awareness of their companions. These bear beasts, when they met their own kind, would not hesitate to attack their own kind. So if they wanted to deal with the bear beast, even if the other bear beasts saw them, they wouldn't help. Of course, there was a possibility that after they killed the bear beast, they would snatch the bear beast's corpse and attack the mercenary group. When the youngsters heard that, their gazes towards the bear beast were filled with battle passion. The body of the advanced bear beast was as tall as a tree that 3 people could carry when it stood up. When it walked, the ground shook continuously. Yi Qing Luo saw that everyone was ready, and with a command, she directly led the youngsters as they charged towards a bear beast. The bear's attacks were swift and powerful. It clearly looked extremely cumbersome, but its movements were shockingly agile. After expending a tremendous amount of effort, the 60-odd people finally managed to take down a bear beast. Luckily, Yi Qing Luo had specially lured the bear beasts to a corner of the bear beast's territory, so it didn't attract the attention of the other bear beasts. The requirement of the mission was that they needed the bear's entire body, not a single part missing. However, if he didn't cut up this huge bear, his spatial pocket wouldn't be able to contain it. Everyone's vision fell onto Yi Qing Luo. They remembered that Yi Qing Luo had a realm ring in her hands, which could store many things without any restrictions. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched helplessly. She had long planned to place the entire bear beast's corpse into the profound phoenix ring. Just as she was about to head up and keep the bear beast into the profound phoenix ring, she heard an exasperated shout behind her. "It's you bunch of trash mercenary group again." As the saying goes, enemies wouldn't meet unless they were enemies. Weren't these people the Blue Dragon mercenary group, which they had just met at the 4th level? Chapter 580. Yiqing Luo suddenly had a bad premonition. Blue Dragon mercenary group's mission? Surely it couldn't be a bear beast, right? If this was really the case, then their battle with Blue Dragon mercenary group would probably be brought forward. Indeed, in the next second, she saw Jitsong Tian leading a group of people as they walked up in quick steps. His vision swept past that bear beast's corpse on the ground as his eyes sparkled with a strange glint. Jitsong Tian had a different view towards this group. He originally thought that these youngsters were merely gathered together to find some fun. Moreover, looking at them, all of them were obviously frail people without the strength to truss a chicken. Even if they looked handsome and dainty, that didn't change the fact that their cultivations were low. But this group of trash which he looked down on actually managed to kill a bear beast. Jitsong Tian hadn't even said a word when a group member beside him had already raised his voice as he spoke out sharply. "Trash group, you actually dare to snatch the item required for the mission with Blue Dragon mercenary group? This bear beast belongs to us Blue Dragon mercenary group." Jitsong Tian frowned and was just about to say something. But on seeing Lan Ling Nua, who was sitting on the wolf beast's back, he recalled her sad look when she was crying in his arms earlier, so he stopped his mouth. That's right, this was merely a mercenary group formed by a bunch of trash. Since they dared to offend Blue Dragon, and dared to make Sister Nua into such a disheveled state, then they must pay the appropriate price. This bear beast, don't even talk about whether it was the item required for their mission. Even if it wasn't, he, Jitsong Tian, was determined to get it. Anyway, this kind of matter often happened between mercenary groups. But when that group member's words entered the world group's youngsters' ears, it incited everyone's dissatisfaction. Tong Ziqing's expression was cold as she berated coldly. "This bear beast was obviously killed by us first, so naturally it belongs to us." "You killed it?" the group member sneered. "What evidence do you have to prove that you killed it? Who would believe that? If I say it's killed by us Blue Dragon mercenary group, then this magical beast is our mission item." This was obviously a robber's theory. The world group's youngsters' expressions instantly turned extremely ugly, as all of them clenched their fists tightly, wishing that they could rush up and give them a good beating. Damn it! Did they need to be so open about snatching things? Did they need to speak such blatant lies? Shameless to the extreme. Their worldview had been refreshed. They didn't make a move, as they kept observing Yiqing Luo's intentions. They remembered Yiqing Luo's words. Everything had to be prioritized. They had just killed the bear beast and were currently exhausted. If they were to really clash with the Blue Dragon mercenary group now, they would definitely not be able to gain any benefits. But to let them swallow this grievance, they really could not do it. Yiqing Luo's expression remained calm as her charming eyes stared coldly at Jitsong Tian, as her lips curled into a smirk of ridicule. After a while, she blinked her charming eyes, and a soft, almost inaudible laugh escaped from her lips. "Heh, Blue Dragon mercenary group. This is my first time seeing such a shameless mercenary group." She lightly tapped her pink lips with her hand, revealing a charming expression. Tilting her head, her eyes curved. "But that's true. With a shameless leader, there will naturally be a shameless team." "You." Jitsong Tian's face turned steely green, as he had not expected Yiqing Luo to fire the cannon directly onto him. Chapter 581. The World Group? Jitsong Tian's expression changed once again. The group which he had always regarded as trash was actually the World Group. Towards the World Group's name, some middle and lower-ranked mercenary groups in the mercenary world had all heard of it. He naturally had heard of the World Group before. Damn it! Why hadn't he thought of it from the start? It was rumored that the World Group's members were formed by a group of 17 to 18-year-old young men and ladies, and all of them were handsome and beautiful, whereas the World Group's group leader was an outstanding temperament and an ice-cold-looking blue-eyed man. There was also a vice group leader, who was an exquisite-looking young lady with enchanting brows and eyes, possessing a peerless beauty. These people in front of them, didn't they fit these rumors? He actually treated the other party as a trash group. Just based on 60 over youngsters, they accepted a high-grade rare mission and directly rose to a bronze plate mercenary group. It could be seen just how much honor points that high-grade rare mission rewarded. The higher the honor points, the higher the difficulty of that mission, which was totally impossible to complete. But the World Group managed to do it. They broke the Mercenary Association's legend of the number one mercenary group, which had always been worshipped as a god group, replacing it to become the second legend. Ji Songtian's heart started to feel apprehensive. He even felt a little terrified and uneasy, as he didn't want to have any more clashes with this group. Qualifications? Just based on you. Do you even have the qualifications to talk about qualifications with brother Songtian? Lan Ling Nua stared fiercely at Dmo Xian. She remembered that it was this man who threw her out earlier. It was merely because of inertia that she accidentally fell into his arms. As a man, facing a beauty throwing herself into his arms, shouldn't he take the chance to be a hero to save the beauty? She didn't despise him for his ordinary looks and ugly looks, allowing him to touch her beautiful body, and he actually despised her? Since young, Lan Ling Nua had never suffered such humiliation before. Brother Songtian, snatch the magical beast back. Teach them a fierce lesson. Lan Ling Nua clenched her fists tightly as she suppressed the malevolent expression on her face, trying her best to put on a coquettish attitude. She wasn't a mercenary group member, and didn't understand what the World Group was, nor did she know what glorious deeds were there under the heavens. Moreover, under Ji Songtian's daily bragging, Lan Ling Nua unanimously agreed that Blue Dragon Mercenary Group was an especially powerful mercenary group. How could these young and small mercenary groups be compared to Blue Dragon Mercenary Group? Ji Songtian's original intention to retreat started to hesitate again. Lan Ling Nua obviously bore a grudge against the World Group. If he chose to retreat now, wouldn't his sister Nua laugh at him for being useless? He knew better than anyone else how he usually boasted about the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group in front of Lan Ling Nua. Otherwise, Lan Ling Nua wouldn't have followed them to the magical beast forest. Originally, he wanted to show off his prowess in front of Lan Ling Nua, and then express his love for her. He had loved Lan Ling Nua for such a long time. How could he destroy everything now? No man was willing to let the woman he loved look down on him. Ji Songtian clenched his fists tightly as he straightened his back and stood in front of his group members, looking at Yi Qing Luo arrogantly. If you know what's good for you, bring your men and leave this place now otherwise. Don't blame this group leader for not showing any mercy. That arrogant look, forcing himself to put on a fearless look, made Yi Qing Luo laugh. She had been observing Blue Dragon Mercenary Group and observing Ji Songtian. Ji Songtian must have heard of the World Group's name. He was also fearful of the World Group. Chapter 582. Even now, although there was no fear on Ji Songtian's face, but if one took a closer look at his slightly trembling body, one would still be able to tell. Seeing that the leader had spoken, the member became even more spirited. As if he had found a backer, he shouted again. Did you hear that? Our guild leader is magnanimous and won't bicker with your trashy team. Get lost right now. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly, as she didn't even bother to take a look at Ji Songtian. She directly bent down as her feather fan touched the bear beast's corpse slightly. A fluorescent light flickered, and the huge bear carcass disappeared in the blink of an eye. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members all opened their eyes wide, as even using their toes to guess that Yi Qing Luo must have done something to this bear beast's corpse. This action was obviously provoking them on purpose. You, how dare you? That group member was so infuriated that his face flushed red as he pointed at Yi Qing Luo and berated. You even dare to snatch our Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's mission item. Don't blame us for bullying you. They spoke righteously, as if they were the ones who had killed the bear beast. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as she turned around and walked deeper into the eerie cold. How could the members behind him endure such provocation? This woman in front of him actually dared to look down on him. He wanted her to pay a painful price. That member clenched the weapon in his hand tightly as he directly flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo turned around with her back, facing the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. The surrounding the world group members were all looking at this scene, not knowing if they were all silly or what. No one actually reminded Yiqing Luo. As for Yiqing Luo, she didn't seem to know that there was someone sneak attacking her from behind. Lan Ling Nua sat on the back of the wolf beast and watched the scene in front of her. A hint of elation flashed past her eyes. It's this kind of team. When their boss is being ambushed, they can only stand by and watch. This is retribution. She was hinting at the 4th level. Yiqing Luo and the rest were leisurely chatting by the side, while the other youngsters were clearing the way around them. When the members of Blue Dragon Mercenary Group heard this, they felt that it made sense. This was retribution. The members of this useless team put themselves in a high and mighty position, ordering their own team members around as they pleased. He deserved to be abandoned by his own team members. Just as Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members thought that Yiqing Luo was dead for sure, the ambushing member suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. With a whoosh, the figure was kicked into the bushes at the side. The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground was accompanied by the painful wails of the regiment member. It was extremely ear-piercing. What was going on? Jitsong Tian's gaze subconsciously fell onto Yiqing Luo. However, the slender figure still had her back facing them as she returned to the middle of Long Yin Zhan's group before turning around. At the instance when she turned around to look at him, Jitsong Tian obviously saw a deep sense of ridicule in Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yes, it was mockery, laughing at his incompetence, mocking their mercenary group for overestimating themselves. That shameful feeling exploded forth in that instant. Jitsong Tian was so angry that he was trembling. The current him didn't care if the group in front of him was that famous mercenary group or not. He only knew that he could not let go of anyone who mocked him. Otherwise Blue Dragon Mercenary Group wouldn't have a foothold in the mercenary world. He wanted to kill Yiqing Luo. He wanted to make Yiqing Luo pay a painful price for today's actions. Chapter 583. The other party was just a trashy mercenary group. Why did it feel that? Jitsong Tian's side had always been on the losing end. Moreover, they were controlled by the other party until they had no way to resist. Earlier, they didn't even see anyone making a move, and Alu was sent flying. Lan Ling Nua started to suspect if what Jitsong Tian said was true or not. Suddenly, she started to regret listening to Jitsong Tian's words, abruptly following him into the magic beast forest. Seeing his beloved woman's suspicious gaze, Jitsong Tian's pride suffered a serious blow. A gush of nameless fury started burning. He clenched his fists tightly as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo, shouting out sharply, "Snatch our bear beast back. Let them witness the power of the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group." Yiqing Luo and the others looked at Jitsong Tian, as though they were looking at a bunch of clowns. Although the youngsters were already very tired, but the thought of being able to teach these arrogant Blue Dragon Mercenary Group a lesson, all of them were as excited as though they were injected with chicken blood. Motherf asterisk Kerr. They had wanted to beat them up for a long time, alright. If it wasn't for Madame Qing Luo's words, they absolutely would have charged up right now. These youngsters, under Yiqing Luo's influence, all understood one logic. That was battle. The most realistic battle, which was now their battle with the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. The reason why the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group was able to walk till now, to become a bronze plate mercenary group, was because the group leader and members' characters were a little conceited. But there was no way to deny that they had absolute ability. To be able to battle with them, they should be able to gain quite a bit of upgrade. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she was about to say something. Suddenly her ears moved slightly as her vision seemed to have touched something. Her eyes suddenly narrowed as she gave a tender shout. Retreat immediately. Her expression became solemn. Dmo Xian and Long Yunjan's expressions instantly sunk, as their gazes shot towards the direction of that member called Alu at the same time. When those youngsters who were rubbing their palms heard that, they went into a blank as they speedily followed Yi Qing Luo's instructions, retreating into the depths of the forest. This action, in the eyes of the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members, was because they were afraid of their ability and wanted to escape. These group members had always been proud and arrogant, and earlier they were humiliated by Yi Qing Luo and the others, so why would they let them off? Under Jitsong Tian's command, the group of them immediately wanted to chase up. Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the bushes behind him. It was Lu's voice. Jitsong Tian and the others stopped in their tracks as they turned their heads over. Only to see a huge pitch-black object poking its head out from the bushes. When he stood up, he was as tall as a mountain. It was a beast, a pitch-black beast. Its legs stood on the ground, and one of its claws hooked Alu up with only one nail. Alu was already a 25-year-old adult man with a tall and sturdy figure, but compared to the giant beast's fingernails, it seemed so tiny. He was as small as an ant. Without any explanation, the giant beast stuffed the person it was hooking onto into its mouth. Instantly, blood splattered everywhere. Alu didn't even let out a scream before he was chewed up and swallowed into the belly of the giant beast. All the members of the group were scared silly. What kind of monster was this? It actually swallowed a living person just like that. Just as they were in a daze, that giant beast started to move once again as it walked out of the forest. Just one step, and it covered a long distance. Yi Qing Luo grabbed onto Dmo Xian's palm with both hands, only to see the World Group's youngsters and Blue Dragon Group's members all squeezing over. Although the youths were saying nasty things and ridiculing the group members, they still made way for them to have a place to stand. Not long after, this small piece of flat ground was filled with people. As for the giant beast, it kept raising its foot, trying to step on them. However, the huge foot that was lifted up seemed to be blocked by something, and was bounced back. The giant beast's body swayed, and like a collapsing mountain, it fell straight back. Boom, boom, boom. A deafening sound reverberated along with the entire magic beast forest shaking. It wasn't an exaggeration to describe it as the earth quaking and mountains shaking. It was an enchantment. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes towards the sky, and she could faintly see a transparent ray of light, appearing and disappearing indistinctly. When did Dmo Xian conjure the enchantment? Chapter 585. What is that thing? The group members heaved a sigh of relief, as their legs were so weak that they couldn't even stand properly. They had all witnessed their own comrades being eaten up by that huge beast, being trampled to death by that huge beast without any chance to resist at all. They didn't know how long this barrier could last for. If there wasn't a barrier, wouldn't they all die under this huge beast's feet? Yi Qing Luo's brows creased tightly as she stared at that huge beast, which was crawling up, as her eyes narrowed slightly. After some time, she released Dmo Xian's arm. Let me take a look at the surrounding situation. Dmo Xian's eyes sunk as he tried to grab her arm. Even he didn't know where this huge beast came from, so it was too dangerous to leave the barrier rashly. I'll ride on Little Nine and take a look in midair. Nothing will happen. Saying that, Yi Qing Luo sat on Little Nine's back. One man and one beast left the barrier and flew straight into midair. After leaving the barrier, Yi Qing Luo then sensed a gust of stinky wild wind blowing continuously. That huge beast had already stood up, and once again attacked towards the direction of the barrier. Yi Qing Luo gazed afar, and saw that not too far behind the huge beast, densely packed magical beasts were surging over. Just like a beast tide, surging forward in an extremely turbulent manner. What the? Forget about a heaven-defying huge beast. There was even a huge wave of magical beasts? They were going to be trapped in the magic beast forest to death. Lass. Suddenly Old Man Song's voice rang in her mind. This is troublesome. Not just troublesome, it was huge trouble. That magical beast. If I didn't recognize wrongly, it should be a 7th level advanced leveled mirage beast. Childine. Old Man Song's tone rose, apparently shocked by this huge beast. Even if it's a sky mystic overlord strong practitioner going against Childine, they would also be at a disadvantage, not to mention you all. Yiqing Luo was overwhelmed with shock when she heard that. Her eyes suddenly widened as she stared unbelievably at that huge beast in front of her as her heart thumped. Even a sky mystic overlord is unable to go against it? 7th level. That magic beast forest's legendary level. Till now, no one had ever returned alive after entering the 7th level. How did this Childine run from the 7th level to the 5th level? In the tens of millions of years of history of the magical beast forest, aside from large-scale beast tides, magical beasts would never cross the boundary that belonged to them. Moreover, even if it was a beast tide, it would at most be 1 level higher. This Childine. Could it be? Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly sunk as her penetrating eyes reflected a cold glint, her eyes swiftly circling the surroundings. It was simply impossible for a high-level phantom beast of the 7th level to appear on the 5th level. But if this high-level mirage beast was led here by someone, and the target was them, it was not impossible. Yiqing Luo's vision surveyed the surroundings alertly, as she carefully avoided Childine. Vaguely, Yiqing Luo seemed to have seen a figure among the densely packed magical beasts. When she looked over again, the figure had disappeared without a trace. It was as if it was just an illusion. An illusion? Yiqing Luo frowned as her gaze turned chilly. No, it can't be an illusion. The appearance of these magical beasts and Childine was indeed premeditated. Was it a ploy by the dark forces? To annihilate everyone who knew about the dark forces' comeback? Like how they massacred the marketplace, to destroy the world group. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as she patted little Nine. The man and beast returned to the array barrier once again. Chapter 586. Childine. Demo Xian's expression changed abruptly, as that pair of eyes which were filled with brilliance turned biting cold. His brows creased as he looked outside the array barrier at the huge beasts which kept on attacking. It's actually Childine. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as her slender hand hooked onto Demo Xian's arm as she suppressed her voice. There's a huge batch of magical beasts coming over. It seems to be a beast tide. This time round, it would be hard for them to escape from this calamity. Yiqing Luo had always assumed that Demo Xian's profound grade should be above Sky Mystic, which was Sky Mystic Overlord. Old Man Song said that Sky Mystic Overlord's strong exponents were unable to subdue Childine. Indeed, when Demo Xian heard that the huge beast was Childine, his brows creased into a bundle as his gaze turned vicious. If Demo Xian was unable to deal with the huge beast, then her brothers. Yiqing Luo recalled that fleeting figure, which disappeared amidst the surging magical beasts earlier. Her gaze suddenly turned gloomy, as though it was covered with frost. We've been plotted against. She squeezed out every single word from the slits of her teeth. Amen. Demo Xian responded calmly as he stared at Childine without any change in his expression. Childine is a 7th level high-leveled mirage beast, and its ability is unfathomable. Furthermore, this mirage beast's nature is extremely lazy. Even if the magical beast forest had collapsed, it might not leave its own nest. If it wasn't for the fact that someone had used extreme methods to awaken Childine from its nest, and was able to lead Childine, who was lazy by nature, would not be able to cross the 6th level to attack them at the 5th level. Not too long later, those magical beasts had already dashed to the back of Childine. Instantly, the entire outer boundary of the array barrier was surrounded by densely packed magical beasts. The magical beasts charged at the barrier one after another. After being bounced back, another wave of magical beasts charged at them. When Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members saw this situation, all of them were dazed. The array barrier was transparent, And when these magical beasts charged over, everyone couldn't help but touch their own bodies, feeling that they were about to be trampled by the magical beasts. Their bodies were weak and many of them had already collapsed onto the ground, unable to stand up. "Stay further away from me. Who allowed you to touch my noble body?" Just when everyone was in a state of panic, a woman's sharp and angry rebuke suddenly rang out. Then he heard a commotion from the side. Some of the Blue Dragon mercenary group's members could not stand steadily as they fell to the side. This piece of flat ground was not spacious to begin with. After accommodating more than 100 people, it became extremely crowded. Furthermore, they didn't dare to get too close to Yiqing Luo and the others, hence, those group members all huddled together. When one of them fell, he bumped into the other. A few other members were squeezed out of the barrier and were instantly torn to shreds by the berserk magical beasts. Everyone was horrified. Once they left the barrier, what awaited them would be nothing left of them. Blue Dragon mercenary group's members didn't dare to move at all. One by one, they glared at the person who had stirred up trouble, Lan Ling Nua. The current Lan Ling Nua was sitting on a huge rock and Jitsong Tian was surrounding her. Lan Ling Nua straightened her long robe, her face filled with disgust and disdain. "What are you staring at? If it wasn't for your group leader, would I even be here today? I'm telling you, if you dare to ruin this beautiful face of mine, leaving a scar on my body, my father will absolutely not let you off." The current her didn't have a single bit of delicateness from before. Chapter 587. Blue Dragon Group's members were so infuriated that they were trembling. Group leader had brought Lan Ling Nua along to complete the mission in the magical beast forest, and that had already made them extremely unhappy. They were a mercenary group, and not an escort team. Everyone knew that group leader admired Lan Ling Nua, hence he had been asking about her well-being along the way, making it seem as though he was an escort team leading a princess on an outing, so they all tolerated it. Of course, a large part of it was because Lan Ling Nua was indeed beautiful. With such a beautiful and alluring young lady following in the group, chatting and laughing, it was a good scenery. Even if she threw a little tantrum, that would also be called cute. But no matter how beautiful she was, at this kind of a time where their lives were at stake, who could tolerate her playing with their little tantrums? Because of Lan Ling Nua's willfulness, she had pushed a few brothers out of the barrier, and they were torn into pieces by those magical beasts. Yet she didn't feel a single bit of guilt. She even dared to blame them. These group members' hearts were filled with rage and injustice as it instantly gushed into their hearts. Even Jitsong Tian's expression turned slightly ugly. If her place was said to be narrow, then the others simply didn't have a single leg to stand on. Considering that Lan Ling Nua was a lady and Jitsong Tian didn't wish for her to be touched by other men, he carefully made his own group members to leave a spot on this huge rock for her. Forget it if Lan Ling Nua didn't appreciate it, she even pushed the other group members aside. As intelligent as Lan Ling Nua, how could she possibly not know the current situation? How could she not know that the slightest movement could possibly cause her to be squeezed out of the barrier? Looking at the group members' vengeful gazes towards Lan Ling Nua, while Lan Ling Nua had a fearless look as she stared at him arrogantly, Jitsong Tian felt mentally tired for no reason. "Brother Tsong Tian, you're the one who coaxed me and brought me here. Don't tell me you don't want to take responsibility?" Lan Ling Nua raised her teary eyes as she looked at Jitsong Tian pitifully. That look in her voice was filled with grievance, as though Jitsong Tian had done something to her. After all, she was the lady whom he had admired for so many years. Seeing her tears and her grievance voice, Jitsong Tian's heart softened. He sighed helplessly as he stretched out his hand and pulled Lan Ling Nua into his embrace. "I'll take responsibility. I'll take responsibility." This action caused the members to widen their eyes. They didn't expect that their brothers would be torn to pieces by the other magical beasts because of this woman's willfulness. They didn't even have a complete corpse. His regiment commander was actually holding that woman in his arms, just because that woman shed a few tears. No matter what, the members were unable to accept it. Looking at the members of the Blue Dragon mercenary group, their eyes were burning with rage as they stared at their group leader, and Lan Ling Nua. He knew that they were having an internal conflict because of Lan Ling Nua. The youngsters in the world group treated it as though they were watching a farce. He felt that the leader of the Blue Dragon group was indeed a short-sighted person. For the sake of a woman, he actually disregarded the life and death of his own brother. It was no wonder that the group members would show such expressions. They absolutely believed that if the same thing happened to Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo would absolutely not allow Dmo Xian to have any chance to hurt them. No, that's not right. It should be said that the Overlord would absolutely not hurt them because of Madame Qing Luo. But Yiqing Luo and the others didn't have the leisure to bother about Blue Dragon Group's farce. Yiqing Luo told Dmo Xian everything that she had seen earlier. I feel that there's a possibility that it's the dark forces doing. Chapter 588. It's the dark forces. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly, and that long and narrow corner of his eyes curled into an arc. It was no longer the usual devilish charm, but an icy chill. His slightly narrowed eyes reflected a sharp blade. Yiqing Luo's petite body froze as she immediately followed Dmo Xian's gaze. This one look made Yiqing Luo's pupils dilate in disbelief. If one didn't look closely, one wouldn't be able to tell. On Child Yin's shoulder, there seemed to be a figure wearing a black cloak. That was the disguise of the dark forces. Something's not right. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased. When the beast tide surged over, what I saw wasn't this figure. Although it was just a flash. But she remembered it clearly. Compared to the black-cloaked man, the figure in the middle of the magical beasts was taller and more slender. It looked a little like a woman. In other words, Child Yin was specially manipulated by the dark forces to come to the 5th level to deal with her. And the beast tide was another wave of people who wanted to kill her? Yiqing Luo's brows twitched fiercely for a few times. She didn't seem to have offended anyone, to the extent that she had to take her life? The beast tide is small, the crux is that Child Yin. Dmo Xian raised his hand and stroked her silky hair. If Lil Luo were to open her mouth, I would. Can you? Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she stared straight into Dmo Xian's eyes. Dmo Xian's fingers that were caressing her hair curled up slightly as he lightly knocked on her forehead. In your eyes, am I that weak? What he meant was that this Child Yin to him wasn't a fierce beast that was hard to deal with. The reason why his expression turned ugly was because he was worried that Yiqing Luo and the others would be injured when they were dealing with Child Yin. After all, with Yiqing Luo's stubbornness, there was a possibility that she might reject his help. Yiqing Luo clutched her head, but her face was filled with joy and shock. That is to say, Xian, your profound grade is not just sky profound. Dmo Xian's thin lips hooked up slightly as he leaned close to her ear, and said with a smile that didn't look like a smile. If Lil Luo gives me some benefits, I don't mind telling you the profound grade. That warm breath faintly brushed past her earlobes. Yiqing Luo's cheeks blushed slightly as she raised her fist and punched towards his chest. Not only was he a sky profound supreme, how strong was he? Obviously, Dmo Xian was only a few years older than her. In the entire Nirvana realm, the number of people who had reached the profound sky realm at his age could be counted on one hand. Not to mention a Sky Xian supreme martial artist. Old man's song. What realm is above the sky profound supreme? Yiqing Luo was really curious. In her memories, the highest realm was the sky profound realm. Old man Song muttered to himself for a moment. This old man can only tell you that above the sky profound realm is the sage profound realm. Furthermore, the grades will be derived from 9 grades to 15 grades, and each grade is divided into 3 levels: the early stage, the middle stage, and the peak stage. In other words, he was telling Yiqing Luo that Dmo Xian's current profound grade was at least at the level of sage profound. As for what grade it was, he did not know. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely as the gaze she shot at Dmo Xian was filled with a sliver of worship. As expected of her man, he was actually so powerful. As for the profound rank after that, wait until you've surpassed the sky profound realm. Then you'll naturally know. After Old Man Song finished speaking, he didn't say anything else. It was obvious that he didn't intend to say anything more. Yiqing Luo didn't ask any further. She hadn't even broken through the earth profound realm, not to mention the profound rank after the sky profound realm. Everything, when she reached that stage, she would naturally know. Chapter 589. Dmo Xian's brows rose slightly as he understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words. She wanted to give it a try, to try to deal with this Child Yin. Even if he was unable to kill Child Yin, battling with a 7th level high-leveled Mirage Beast would definitely be able to raise his own ability. This was exactly how Yiqing Luo believed in Dmo Xian. She had placed her life in Dmo Xian's hands. So what if Child Yin was powerful? Whether he could do it or not, he would only know after he tried. Especially, such a rare opportunity. How could Yiqing Luo bear to let it go? If she really couldn't do it, then Dmo Xian would do it. Yiqing Luo narrowed her crafty eyes as her little hand hooked onto his smooth lower jaw. Of course, don't think of just standing by the side to watch. That black-cloaked man, I'll leave it to you. The people from the dark forces actually dared to show themselves. If they didn't leave something behind, how could they let them go so easily? TSK, you're so assured of me? Although Dmo Xian's words were filled with grievance, his eyes were filled with adoration, which obviously indicated that he was in a good mood. Yiqing Luo believed in his ability, and this was the biggest affirmation towards him. The two of them flirted with each other in a low voice. Their obvious display of affection blinded the eyes of the members of the Blue Dragon group. Especially Lanling Nua, who was nestled in Ji Tsongtian's arms. Her entire face was twisted, malevolent and terrifying. A nameless flame of jealousy rose in Lanling Nua's heart. She wanted to pull Yiqing Luo, who was nestled in Dmo Xian's arms, out, not wanting to see any other woman in that position. This thought caused Lanling Nua's heart to tremble. Could it be that she had feelings for that ordinary-looking man? Actually, although the man's appearance was rather ordinary, his eyes and temperament were like that of a banished immortal. If one only looked at her back, it would be a beautiful scene. Furthermore, his embrace was extremely wide and firm. She had an urge to stay in that embrace forever. She wanted to. Countless thoughts surged in his mind. When these thoughts ran through her mind like crazy, Lanling Nua's expression suddenly sank, and she hurriedly brainwashed herself. No, impossible. She was just unwilling. But this man was actually not charmed by her beauty. She was jealous of Yiqing Luo. It must be because the man whom she was unable to seduce had been seduced by Yiqing Luo. That's right, that's it. Hey, you useless team. Why are you still standing there like a fool? Aren't they very powerful? There are so many magical beasts. Aren't you going to kill them? Lanling Nua screeched at Yiqing Luo's direction. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Are we going to be trapped here with you bunch of trash today? We're going back to the academy tomorrow. If we don't make it back in time and break my excellent attendance record, I won't forgive you. At the mention of the academy, the other group members all started talking at once. Yes, tomorrow. Tomorrow we have to go to the academy. We can't be trapped here. If our credits are deducted, we won't be able to graduate. Are we going to be trapped here today? Academy? These mercenaries were also from the academy? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she sized them up. These people's faces were unfamiliar to her. If they were Heavenly Academy students, she would definitely have an impression of them. These people should be students from other academies. Indeed, Lanling Nua stood up and stood on the huge rock, looking down at Yiqing Luo's direction. Chapter 590. We're all having class students in Lady Phoenix Academy, and if half of the students in the class don't make it back to the academy tomorrow, the academy will definitely investigate our whereabouts, and by then, our respective families will be alerted. Lanling Nua's beautiful face revealed a smirk of arrogance. I advise you to escort us out of the magic beast forest safely, otherwise. The minute the academy and families find their way here, you will absolutely not be able to bear the consequences. Hearing Lanling Nua's words, Yiqing Luo almost burst out laughing. Who gave this fool such confidence? Who made this fool to be so arrogant? Stand out. She absolutely wouldn't slap her face. Sentence after sentence of threats. She really treated herself as something. As a woman, how could Yiqing Luo possibly not tell that Lanling Nua's eyes which was unable to conceal? Jealousy? Yiqing Luo really laughed out loud at this moment. She raised her eyes and stared at the man beside her, as she shook her head helplessly. This man's charm was unstoppable. He had already disguised himself into such an ordinary look, yet he was still able to capture the heart of Lanling Nua, who thought she was the most beautiful woman in the entire world. She had no choice but to admire Dmo Xian's charm. Dmo Xian put on an innocent look as he shrugged and shook his head. I didn't do anything. If you do anything, she will become even crazier. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as her charming eyes swept towards Lanling Nua. After some time, she revealed an arc which didn't look like a smile. This arc was filled with an icy chill. Following that, Yiqing Luo placed her hands behind her back as she strolled towards Lanling Nua. That arrogant and condescending imposing manner forced the surrounding Blue Dragon Group's members to open up a path. Who do you think you are? The World Group is powerful and incredible, but if we don't kill these magical beasts, what can you do to us? That devastatingly beautiful face was obviously smiling, but the words that she spat out made one feel as though they were in an ice house. Immediately after, Yiqing Luo continued, if you don't want to be trapped together with us, then scram out of our enchantment. If you don't want to break your academy's excellent attendance record, then scram out of our enchantment. As for your academy, your families and whatnot, what has it got to do with us? Now I am suspecting that these magical beasts were attracted by your Blue Dragon mercenary group. Sentence after sentence was spat out from Yiqing Luo's mouth icily. There was a hint of disdain in her eyes as she sneered. Her smile grew wider as she said, trash that relies on us to survive. Who gave you the guts to shout here? The last sentence was said by Yiqing Luo word by word, and it was directed at Lanling Nua. Anyone who dared to covet her, Yiqing Luo's man, had to see if she agreed to it or not. She even dared to slander him time and time again. Did she really think that everyone had to love her? Yiqing Luo had never talked about such feelings before. But in her understanding, the so-called love could not tolerate the slightest grain of sand. Between her and Dmo Xian, she would absolutely not allow anyone to come between them. Even if Dmo Xian didn't have any feelings for Lanling Nua, and couldn't even remember what Lanling Nua looked like. But she wouldn't allow it. You could say that she was overbearing or selfish, but to her feelings were just like that. You. Lanling Nua was choked by Yiqing Luo as her face flushed red, as she was so stunned that she couldn't even say a single word of rebuttal. Lanling Nua was obviously standing on the huge rock, wanting to say that she was able to suppress Yiqing Luo's arrogance by looking down at her. But at this moment, she was so intimidated by Yiqing Luo that she started to tremble. Chapter 591. Miss, your words are too serious. Jitsong Tian eventually couldn't bear to see his beloved woman being bullied by others, as he went up to pull Lanling Nua into his arms. Is it serious? Yiqing Luo gave a light laugh as her brows were filled with coquettish charm. You who depend on us to survive, when you're arrogantly ordering us around, why don't you say it's serious? Jitsong Tian's words were dry as his face turned steely green. Young lady, we are Celestial Phoenix Academy students, and I'm East Water Continent's G family's young master. Sister Nua is the East Water Monarch's sister. On account of our G family and the royal family's face, today's matter. Before he could finish his words, he saw Yiqing Luo raising her palm to stop his words. Following that, the feather fan in Yiqing Luo's fingertips moved, and a bewitching red glow pressed towards him. Jitsong Tian had not expected Yiqing Luo to make a move just like that as he was stunned momentarily and in his fluster, he hugged Lan Ling Nua as he turned around and leapt up. However, he had forgotten that he was currently in a spirit formation. With this leap, he leaped out of the spirit formation. A pungent stench entered their noses. The deafening howls of the demonic beasts pierced their eardrums. Countless birds and beasts pounced on the two of them like lightning upon seeing them leap out of the spirit formation. They were so densely packed that the two of them turned pale with fright. Luckily, Ji Tsongtian's reaction was swift, as he immediately returned to the array barrier. Just as he was about to explode his anger towards Yiqing Luo, he saw that enchanting woman holding a cold arc with a smile that didn't look like a smile. Her feather fan pressed against her pink lips as she laughed lightly. "What has your status got to do with me?" Just a few simple words were enough to inflict a heavy blow on the two of them. All along, he had thought that his incomparably noble identity, in Yiqing Luo's eyes, couldn't even stir up a single ripple. Could it be? This woman's status was even higher than theirs? It was no wonder that they didn't know Yiqing Luo's identity. They had only heard of the World Group's name, but were unable to investigate the information of the World Group's members. Because before this, no one had ever seen this group of youths. As for Yiqing Luo's identity, and the news of these youngsters coming out from the Imperial Palace, only the people in West Continent's Three Springs City knew about it. Ji Tsongtian hugged Lan Ling Nua as his pride had been unknowingly trampled into dregs by Yiqing Luo. However, at this moment, he couldn't say a single word. He was completely stunned by Yiqing Luo's imposing manner. However, Lan Ling Nua was relentless. She had never suffered such humiliation before. Ever since she was a child, she had been the proud daughter of the heavens. Relying on her beautiful face, her life in the East Continent had been smooth sailing. She could be called a queen whose status was second only to her cousin, Junemo Xia, who didn't bow and scrape when they saw her. Why was he humiliated by an unknown nobody in the Western Continent? Well done! How dare you look down on the dignity of our Eastern Continent's imperial family? Lan Ling Nua popped her head out from Ji Tsongtian's arms as her face was filled with anger. Just you wait. Wait till I return to East Continent. I want my royal cousin to send troops to invade your West Continent. Sister Nua. Ji Tsongtian pressed down on Lan Ling Nua's head as his brows creased tightly as he cried out in a low voice. Stop talking. You're afraid of her, but I'm not. Lan Ling Nua's chest heaved up and down, as she couldn't help but grumble that Ji Tsongtian was a big coward. If they were to lose today, wouldn't it make West Continent's people think that their East Continent was easy to bully? Thinking in this way, Lan Ling Nua's expression turned even gloomier. But her words had just ended when she felt a gust of cold wind blowing against her face, and immediately felt an icy coldness on her neck. Not knowing when, Yiqing Luo was already standing in front of her. Chapter 592. Lan Ling Nua looked down and saw a slender wrist that was as smooth as jade. The slender fingers were tightly wrapped around her neck. The coldness of his fingertips was like ice melting on her neck. Lan Ling Nua's petite body suddenly stiffened as her pupils enlarged, staring at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. How did Yiqing Luo appear in front of her? And how did he choke her? Ji Tsongtian was actually sent flying. Before she could even react, she was restrained by Yiqing Luo. At this very moment, Lan Ling Nua deeply felt Yiqing Luo's power. She absolutely believed that Yiqing Luo wasn't simply trying to scare her. He really did not put her status in his eyes at all. He really wanted to kill her. Lan Ling Nua was scared. Her beautiful face was pale with fright, and her entire body started to tremble. Seeing her in this state, Yiqing Luo's brows revealed a sweet arc, as she was extremely enchanting. Today you're standing on our West Continent soil. Even if you're the emperor, you'll have to be obedient. Following that, Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers suddenly increased the strength. Lan Ling Nua widened her eyes in terror. She kept extending her hands, trying to pry open the clamp on her neck. But she didn't even have the chance to move, let alone lift her hand. Ji Tsongtian saw this, and his eyes were filled with pain. He wanted to go up to help Lan Ling Nua, but after the group members supported him, they held onto his arms. The arrogant and willful Lan Ling Nua indeed needed someone to take her down a peg. It was also time to let Lan Ling Nua know that not everyone should revolve around her. Either shut up or get lost, or I'll throw you out right now. Yiqing Luo didn't have any protective feelings for the fairer sex, as she dropped this sentence and released her hand. Without Yiqing Luo's support, Lan Ling Nua's entire person was like a pile of mud, softly lying on the huge rock. Her beautiful face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and there was even a hint of ashen. Filled with resentment, Lan Ling Nua didn't dare to speak another word. No one stood on her side, and no one was willing to speak up for her. Even Jitsong Tian didn't speak up for her. Lan Ling Nua felt that the whole world had betrayed her. Obviously all these were Jitsong Tian's fault. It was Jitsong Tian who brought her to the magical beast forest without any explanation, and it was Jitsong Tian who admired her beauty. On what basis was it that when something happened to her, he didn't care about her at all? Lan Ling Nua's eyes were filled with intense hatred, and her facial features were hideous and twisted. Jitsong Tian, who was originally standing by the side, preparing to head up to appease Yiqing Luo after she left, when he saw her in this state, he instantly shuddered. Was this still the smart and kind sister Nua in his heart? When he saw those eyes filled with hatred, he trembled with fear. At the same time, at the entrance to the first level of the magical beast forest, more than a dozen men in black clothes were hiding in the forest with sharp broadswords in their hands. The leader of the group was a black-robed man. Although he was also dressed in black, the material he was wearing was obviously smooth silk, which was of a much higher grade than the other black-robed men. Furthermore, the black-clothed man was wearing a jade crown inlaid with a few gems. He stood in front of the 10 over black-robed men, as he stuck his head out to look towards the direction of the entrance, as though he was waiting for something. Fourth young master, you'd better rest in the forest for a while. We'll keep a close watch on you. A black-robed man behind spoke out speechlessly. They were assassins. Assassins? You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.